Hey everyone, happy New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's Eve. We are bringing in 2025 with good commentary, good vibes. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day today. If you even had to go work, and if you didn't have to go work, I hope you had a great day and you're preparing to celebrate later on this evening. So since I was going to go early, live early today, because I'm going to also hang out as well for the New Year's Eve and bring in the New Year's the way that I want to. I have 5 videos, 5 cases for us to go over today, and I hope you enjoy them. Some of them have been very interesting cases, which had a lot of viewership because there were weird dynamics. So I hope that you guys enjoy them. And while you're traveling in, just hit the like button. You can subscribe, tell a friend if they are interested in it, or share this live stream if they're interested in it. And let's go on. Hi, Miss Jalen. Hi, Miss Jalen. How are you doing? Happy New Year's. Happy New Year's to you, dear. Happy New Year's Eve. Yes. All right. So the first case that I have for you guys is about a younger woman. She's probably in her early 20s. She got herself caught up in a situation where her friend lost her life, and it was over $400. So I want to review this with you guys, and I hope you enjoy.
10. In the city of Costa Mesa, California, a dramatic 911 call was received by the Costa Mesa Police Department.
Okay, what's going on, sir?
There's a body in my son's apartment.
There's a what?
A body, a dead body.
A dead body? Are you sure, sir?
I can think he's sure, man, I'm sure.
Okay.
He's cold.
Okay, hold on just a minute. Is it someone that you know, sir?
I have no idea who she is. I don't know what's going on.
Does your son know who it is?
He's not here. Jesus, honey.
Okay. Do you know where your son is?
No, I don't. I told his phone's off.
Okay. Just keep breathing for me, sir, okay? Where in the apartment is she?
She's in the bedroom. She's like there's been some sexual activity. She's dead. There's blood from her head. I thought she was to see if she was cold.
There was blood from her head?
Yeah, honey, I don't know what to say.
Okay, just stay in there, okay?
I fear Jesus.
It is, but is it clear it is?
The victim that is being described to dispatch is 23-year-old Julie
No
Kibuishi.
problem, dear.
Her
Thank
body
you so
had
much,
just
so
been
much.
discovered, lying next to a bed, surrounded in a pool of her own blood.
Hello?
I'm still here, sir. I'm not going to hang up, okay? Until there's someone there with you. Is anybody else in the apartment besides you?
Oh, no.
No one else is in there?
Yeah, there's somebody there. Okay. You can talk too, okay? Who are you?
Sir, who are you talking to now?
Take off, please. Just go. Just go. You've been trying to find him all day. Jake, I'm telling you. Just go. You're not, just go. I don't know. Just go. Just go. I got the cops coming. Go.
Who is that you're talking to?
One of his friends.
One of your son's friends?
No.
Has Jake talked to your son today?
No. I don't need you on the line, okay? I don't need you on the line. I'm good.
The man whose voice you have been listening to belongs to Steve Hare. Steve's son Sam lived in that apartment but had planned to stay at his parents' house over the weekend. As Friday came and went, Sam was nowhere in sight. It was also quite strange that his phone was turned off. His parents were starting to worry, so on the next afternoon, Steve decided to go check on him, only to find the lifeless body of Julie. Police arrived on the scene, and their investigation immediately began. Besides some empty beer bottles on his porch table, the rest of the apartment was relatively clean. There was a wedding invitation on the kitchen countertop from a couple that Sam must have been friends with, Dan Wozniak and Rachel Buffett. Police noted to investigate this couple at a later time. For now, they moved on to the bedroom where the crime had taken place. To the right of the bed was a small tactical knife sitting on the bedside table. Amongst other items, there were several books, one of which was a soldier's handbook, a guide to military values and skills. To the left of the bed is where they found Julie. She was lying partially on the bed in a praying position with her knees on the floor. A message was marked on the back of her shirt that said, "All yours, you." There was a large open wound to the back of her head, but untouched sitting on top of her head was a tiara. She had met up with her brother Taka and his fiancée for dinner at a local Thai food restaurant the night before. They had asked her to be a part of their upcoming wedding and gave her said tiara as a gift. While they were investigating the apartment, they began to hear a muffled Taylor Swift song coming from somewhere in the room. They followed the noise and they discovered Julie's cell phone with notifications available to read on the lock screen. They then sifted through these messages. They found out that on the night before, Sam had sent her a multitude of messages. These messages started off normal, with a text saying, "Helping Dan," then headed to the folks for the weekend. However, a couple of hours later, his tone shifted to a more perturbing one. "Can you come over tonight at midnight alone? Very upset. Need to talk. I'm dealing with some bad family crap. I don't want to be alone. Please don't tell anybody. Please. Please. No sex. I just need to talk." Julie then responded with, "I'm here for you like family." Investigators wanted to know more about Sam before they jumped to any conclusions. As it turns out, Sam was actually an Army veteran who had served time in Afghanistan. He was deployed to one of the most dangerous territories, stationed at Camp Keating. However, being a war hero often comes at a toll. His friends said that he was showing signs of PTSD when he came home. Sam and Julie had recently started dating shortly after Julie began tutoring him for an anthropology course. That explained why Julie was in Sam's apartment in the first place. However, detectives felt that the most important detail about Sam was that Sam was charged and tried for murder once before. He was accused of luring his friend into an area where gang members then shot him. But Sam was found not guilty and was acquitted on all charges. With this background information on Sam, investigators now had what seemed to be a cut-and-dry theory. Sam, who had been exposed to crime in the past, had been drinking and possibly using other drugs as well. He then had a psychotic episode as a result of his PTSD and proceeded to assault and kill Julie.
So here's the thing, right? What I have explained to you guys before is that normally they're going to, when they go and they investigate who's the closest person to the victim who passed away, they're going to lead with the first initial one, and then they're going to go back in their background. But the real thing that kind of stood out for me is the victim was partially laying on the bed in a praying stance, like she was praying, and she had writings on her back saying, she's all yours, F you. That does not seem like something that this guy Sam would necessarily do, because who would he be leaving that for? He would be leaving that for if, let's say, she had a intimate partner or she was cheating on him. He would be leaving that for her partner. Well, the partner doesn't live in that apartment. That's his apartment, right? And he was nowhere to be found. So that's why it doesn't really make any sense that he will write that to leave for her intimate partner or the person that she's cheating with. But what that also tells you is that whoever did that to that woman, they left that for him. That was a message for him. And they wanted him to return back to the house to see her in that such state. But let's go on. Oh, hi, Yaya. How you doing? Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Thank you for coming in and stopping by. Thank you. But let's go on.
Then fled the scene.
The victim was just 23 years old. Her boyfriend is now missing.
He hasn't been seen since last week. Neighbors say his bicycle sits outside his apartment, but his vehicle is gone.
Now, the Costa Mesa police have released a photo and vehicle description, hoping to locate a 26-year-old man suspected of killing his 23-year-old girlfriend.
Police issued a photo of Sam and a description of his car. They told the public that he was potentially dangerous and to call 911 if they had any information on his whereabouts. Sam remained MIA for over a week. Meanwhile, police continued to question everybody involved in Sam and Julie's life, including Dan Wozniak and Rachel Buffett, the engaged couple whose wedding invitation was found on Sam's kitchen countertop. Police knew that Sam had been with Dan just hours before Julie's murder after finding messages on Julie's phone. Dan and Rachel both shared the same story with the detectives. On Friday, May 21st, Sam had arrived at their house accompanied by a man in a black hat. They all had a brief conversation, and then Sam and his friend left. That was it. That was their entire story. While working to corroborate this story, law enforcement was hitting dead end after dead end. However, Sam's dad, Steve, was doing his own investigation. He gained access to Sam's bank account and realized that there was account activity since he had gone missing, as somebody had withdrawn cash from the account 20 miles away in Long Beach. They tracked this activity to the specific ATM and were able to obtain footage from the exact time that Sam's card was being used. However, the person using the ATM wasn't Sam at all. It was a younger man, possibly a teenager. The card had also been used at a pizza place in Long Beach. The pizza place cooperated with law enforcement and provided the address that the order was sent to. Worried that a panicked and dangerous veteran may be there, police conducted a fully fleshed out raid on the pizza purchaser's home. A helicopter circled above the address while a SWAT team with their guns drawn approached and knocked on the door. 17-year-old Wesley Freilich answered, the same teenager seen in the ATM footage. Officers demanded Wesley come out of the house with his hands up. After the chaos settled, it became clear that Sam was not hiding at this teenager's home, so they asked Wesley how he got a hold of Sam's bank card. Wesley told the investigators that he was given the card by none other than Dan Wozniak. Apparently, Dan was his mentor in the acting business. He said that Dan told him that Sam was in trouble with a bail bondsman and needed help withdrawing money. He even had a folder outlining the legalities of what they were doing. Wesley trusted Dan, so he agreed to help. There was something that Wesley found odd. Dan stated that he needed to wear a black hat. He then began withdrawing $400 at a time and delivering the cash to Dan, which explained the recent bank activity. With this new information, the narrative quickly shifted to Dan being the prime suspect in both Julie's murder and Sam's disappearance. When they reached out to him and asked,
So yeah, that makes perfect sense why they were transferred over to Dan, because the guy's son is actually missing. The girl, his girlfriend, was unalived in his house. You have this random young man with his son's card, and it's been proven that he did go to Dan and his fiance's house, and then they left. So it makes perfect sense that they're going to say that he's a main suspect, especially since the younger guy said that he actually got the credit card from Dan. So where is this guy at? Where is his son? Why is his son not popping up? Why he's not answering his phone? there's no clues. It's like he kind of disappeared, but there is a woman who's his girlfriend unalived in his body. So let's go on and see what else is going to be said.
Asked him to answer some questions at the police station. He told them that his wedding was in 2 days, and that he was too busy having a sushi dinner for his bachelor party. Officers then went to the sushi restaurant and confronted him. Dan reacted immediately by saying he was sick of covering for Sam, and that he would tell the police everything. So they brought him back to the station for questioning, and his fiancée Rachel followed once she received the news.
Good to have a seat. Yes, sir. I need to start from the beginning. Yeah. Friday morning, I woke up and got a call from Sam in the morning who said, "How serious are you about this?" And at the time, I was looking for a little bit of money, so I said, "Very serious. It can't work." She said, "Okay, what do we need to make it happen?"
What Dan is talking about is a scheme that Sam had allegedly concocted. The plan was to get 17-year-old Wesley Freilich to withdraw cash from Sam's bank account, which Sam would then report as stolen. Once the bank reimbursed Sam for the stolen cash, they would then divide the cash up between the three of them. Dan then explained exactly how he instructed Wesley to pull it off.
I said, "Okay, Wesley, here's what we're going to do. I'm treated like I was a co-op guy, pretending I'm an actor." So I said, "Here's what you need to do. I'm going to park across the street," and I parked. It was across the street from the bank, so I wouldn't be seen. While I was avoiding. I said, "What you're going to do is get out, grab your skateboard, go over there, enter the PIN number, take out $400. Because I heard it was the max that you could take out. He said, "Okay." He asked if it was illegal. I said, No, don't worry. That was a lie to him too.
After retrieving the money from the ATM, Dan dropped Wesley off at home and let him hold on to Sam's bank card. This scam initially took place on Friday afternoon, which was reflected through the bank card transactions. Julie's body was found the next day, on Saturday afternoon. The detectives needed to fill this gap in the timeline, so they asked Dan about the last time that he saw Sam, which was apparently Saturday morning.
I got a knock on my door. I want to say it was about 8:30 in the morning. Opened the door, it was Sam. He's like, "There's a dead body in my apartment." He's like, "Okay." Basically, as soon as you left me, I started doing some drugs and drinking heavily because I was very depressed about my family. I said, "What did you do?" He's like, "I got a gun." He asked me for sex. He was pretty he said no, and then he just shot her twice.
Apparently, this is when Dan expressed that he did not want to be a part of Sam's predicament. Sam then threatened Dan and Rachel's life and forced Dan to drop him off somewhere. Supposedly, Dan then decided to drive him to the local mall. Now that Dan has admitted to being Sam's accomplice, with knowledge of Julie's murder and transporting the suspect, the detectives decided to collect his DNA in order to eliminate him from the crime scene.
What we're going to do is, this is a swab. We're going to get a swab to eliminate you. Should we take a sec?
Eliminate me?
Yeah, eliminate you from any issues. So basically, just open your mouth for me. There you go. That's it.
Oh, okay. Well.
Basically, where it is, it's just an elimination process. You're not in trouble with us, you're being honest. There should be no reason why we should find your DNA anywhere.
At this moment, Dan likely realizes that the information he has withheld from the detectives would incriminate him if they find his DNA in Sam's apartment. He decides to quickly explain that he was in fact in Sam's apartment that Friday, and outlines
See, they have to keep into consideration that he said that he's an actor, right? If he's telling you the story that he's an actor, that's what he do, and he put on a very good act to convince this young boy that what he was doing was not a crime. Why would you think that he would not be withholding information that he might think it might make him look bad, right? I mean, it's already to the point where you already was an accomplice when trying to rob a bank, rob a bank by saying that money was stolen, so they will have to pay you that money back or give a fine. But now he realized that if he doesn't tell that he was actually at the house and they find his fingerprints or DNA or even him drinking a cup or something, the same day that this woman possibly lost her life, it was going to be a big issue. So he had to add a little bit more information into that. He started to get a little bit more uncomfortable especially after the swab situation, and that's why he took those numerous of sips. You could start to look at people's mannerisms to tell whether if they're starting to get triggered, they're starting to get nervous, they're not as cool and calm as they were before when they was trying to keep up the facade that they didn't know anything.
Exactly where his DNA might be found.
Now, I was in Sam's apartment Friday afternoon.
Okay.
And I know I did use the bathroom.
You did use the bathroom?
I used the bathroom, and I went, I'm not sure if I went out on the patio, John. Most of the time I do, but that day I don't know if I did or not.
Okay. We got your DNA?
Yes.
Okay. Where's that DNA gonna show up?
In Sam's car.
What about on Julie?
No, on the Julie.
You sure about that?
Yes, I'm positive about that.
Did you see Julie dead in the apartment?
No, I did not.
I think you know a little more about this thing than you're divulging to us.
No, I don't.
I think there's a whole lot more.
There may be, but please question me on any gaps that I want to fill. Absolutely.
As far as your participation in this thing.
As far as my participation?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I helped him get away. Yes, I knew that he had killed someone, and yes, I knew that I...
Stop right there.
Stand up. So I'm saying?
Absolutely, yeah.
You're arrested. For murder, okay? Accessory to murder, that's what you're being arrested for. You don't want to talk to us anymore? That's
okay,
it. Yeah, we're done.
Hold on.
We're done.
Whoa. Okay.
We're done. Unless you want to talk to us, we're done.
I will talk to you about anything if it gets me to my wedding on Friday. That's what I will promise. Anything you want.
Go ahead, we're listening.
Yes, I helped Sam get away. Yes, I did not know what he was planning till then. Yes, I lied to you guys earlier. Yes, I did stuff that I'm not proud of. That's it.
Dan, you got the answers. You can help us. I don't know what else you want me to say. I don't know. Tell us. I don't know. Tell us the truth.
He came down and said, help me. I went upstairs, and yes, I saw the goddamn body. Is that what you want to hear?
No. We want to hear the truth.
That is the truth.
If this was an audition for the role of an innocent man, Dan just blew it. Dan has now admitted to helping a killer get away, seeing Julie's dead body in the apartment, and then doing nothing about it. The detectives now lie to Dan, stating that his DNA was found on Julie's body. They do this with the hopes that he will give up more incriminating.
Yeah, this guy, he just blew it. Okay, he just really blew it. And like I said, that is the psychological tactic to do to an individual, right? Is because you make them feel all comfortable, then they start giving a little bit more, then they think they're safe. Then when they realize you jump a little, hey Flora, how you doing, darling? Good to see you. Good to see you. Then they jump a little, yeah, well, I was there, but I still don't know anything. And the more and more that you continue to put on the heat throughout the interrogation, the more they start spilling beans. This guy just done and spilled that not only did he lie all before earlier, that he actually did help this man get away. He actually saw the body, did not call the police, didn't notify anyone, and you went on your merry way back to your house, and you really think that you're gonna be out or get out of this so you can get married. Now you're more focused on making sure that you get married on Friday. I think you should have been more focused about getting married on Friday and not help your friend get away from a crime scene. Maybe that would have been smart, but let's go on.
Information.
How'd your DNA get on her?
Because I was right over the body.
What's that?
Because I was right over the body.
Okay. So how'd your DNA get on her?
That I don't know.
DNA doesn't just fall off.
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't touch her. I didn't do anything.
What did you see?
I saw 2 gunshots in her head. And I saw her pants, ripped and cut. And I saw, written on the back of the shirt.
Where were the 2 bullet wounds?
I don't know. Sam said he shot her twice.
Okay. But you just told us you saw 2 bullet wounds. You were standing over. No. Okay. Whoa, stop.
Okay.
How did your DNA get on? I was standing over the body. I saw 2 bullet wounds to her head.
Exactly what you said, Dan.
You can't even keep your lies straight.
The reason the detectives are drilling Dan for the 2 bullet hole statement is because they have already seen Julie's gunshot wounds and are aware that Dan's claim to have seen 2 bullet holes is unrealistic. The wounds to Julie's head were nothing short of gruesome, and clearly distinguishing 2 separate bullet holes through the mess of hair, blood, and brain matter was impossible without further examination. There are only 2 people who would know such a fact after a first encounter: the coroner/forensic pathologist and the person who pulled the trigger.
You're done?
Instead of escorting Dan to a holding cell, they brought in Rachel to ask him questions herself.
You can go over and sit right there.
So when was the last time you really saw Sam? What happened? There's nothing you can do at this point to make it better?
Absolutely. He can be truthful with us, and truthful with you, and truthful with everyone.
The questioning wasn't going anywhere, so they decided to bring Rachel into another room and question her on her own. She explained that Dan had borrowed money from loan sharks in order to pay their rent, and he would be in danger if he didn't pay them back. Apparently, on the day that Dan was expected to pay the money back, Sam stopped by in the morning and the 2 went for a drive. Dan ended up returning alone with $400.
He told me the people were going to come break his legs, and he was scared out of his mind. He came down to the apartment because he was going to give Dan a ride. He had $400 somehow on Friday.
After this interview, Rachel was free to go, and Dan was escorted back to a holding cell. Later that evening, Dan placed a call to Rachel from the police department. This is that phone call.
What did you do?
I helped Sam cover some stuff up and helped him get some drugs. That's it. I didn't murder anybody.
My mom's working on canceling all the wedding plans now, and I just talked to Tim, and I need to make a phone call to the detective now. Tim says he has evidence with him, or he knew where it was or something.
Then I'm doomed.
Do you know that Tim had some evidence?
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God.
The evidence that they are referring to is a backpack full of Sam's bloody clothes, his wallet, and his phone. Dan gave this bag to his brother, Tim, so he could dispose of it and prevent the cops from getting their hands on it. Police later found this bag thrown over Tim's fence as a last-ditch effort to quickly hide the evidence.
This is ridiculous, and I have to go tell the detectives the truth.
No, baby, no, don't. That can't be found. Babe, listen to me. I'm going to go do something right now, and you're not going to see me for the rest of your life. Do you understand that?
No.
I have to tell the truth on what I did, and I think you now know what it is, and it's bad. Imagine the worst, and that's what I did.
I love you, baby. I'll be right there. Okay.
Following through with his word, Dan requested to speak with the detectives once again.
Okay. Talk to us. What do you have to tell me? You said you wanted to talk to me. What's going on?
I'm crazy and I did it.
You did what?
I killed Julie and I killed Sam.
Okay. All right.
I killed them both.
All right.
Sam came first. It was all just about the money. That was it.
That was a twist that I was not expecting. Yes, I was expecting him to be a accomplice, but now the simple fact that we haven't found Sam, I did believe that something happened to Sam, but I was not expecting that his so-called friend would unalive him and then also unalive his girl or that girl. Well, let's see what else he has to say.
All right.
100%. Sam is decapitated.
Okay.
He's at the military base.
All right.
In the theater. His head and hands have been decapitated, as well as his arm that had a tattoo.
What was going on in your mind when you were dismembering the body, dismembering Sam's body?
I was actually standing and laughing.
Possibly the most disturbing aspect of this confession is that just hours after murdering and dismembering Sam, Dan performed as usual, dancing and singing in a theater musical called 9.
Top of the morning to you, Guido, 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 me, and you will be my true love.
Backstage, while the play was still ongoing, Dan texted Julie using Sam's phone to lure her to the apartment later that evening. He says he then staged the scene to frame Sam. The next day, he disposed of Sam's body and proceeded to give another performance.
See what I mean?
Now satisfied with the confession Dan has provided, the detectives wanted to understand his motive for killing Sam.
And your motive behind killing Sam was?
Money and insanity.
Money and insanity. Okay.
Directly following this interrogation, Dan was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Despite his clear-as-day confession, he would later plead not guilty to his charges. Dan called Rachel once more to tell her what he had just.
All right, so obviously this guy is a full-on serial killer, and that's unfortunate because he's a serial killer against people that is his friend. Do you know how much it takes for someone to dismember someone? Like, he removed his head, he removed his arm and stuff like that. That you have to have no feelings whatsoever, or I don't know. You really have to hate someone's guts, like really loathe them, or you have to have no feeling whatsoever. Like, dismembering someone is as equivalent of you eating oatmeal for breakfast. Like, that's insane. And the fact that he went right back to work after dismembering his friend that's supposed to have been at his wedding, he gave him a whole wedding invitation. That's insane. But I will tell you what he's trying to do now. They asked him, what did you do that for? Why did you do all this? He said it was for money and insanity. So he's going to start with the insanity case, right? He's going to plead insanity or temporary insanity. But let's go on.
Just told the detectives.
I shot him 2 times in the back of the head. And then I grabbed his credit cards and I grabbed Wesley and we took money out of his account. I opened up the door of Sam's apartment and shot her twice in the back of the head.
How did nobody hear the gun?
I don't know. I got lucky. I
love you, baby. You are so insane and so stupid. But I know in your twisted little mind, you were doing it because you wanted to be happy with me. And I hate you for screwing it up.
Shortly after the details of the killing went public, a man contacted the police with another story. The man's name was Chris Williams, and he was another struggling performer. He said that he was friends with Dan and Rachel, and he was actually the one who had lent them the loan shark money that Dan needed to pay back. Apparently, Chris had provided Rachel and Dan $2,000 of his own money. He then told them that it was from dangerous people to help guarantee that he would be paid back. This means that on the day of the murder, Dan did not owe any leg-breaking loan sharks money. He actually owed Chris. It also turns out that on that day, Chris attempted to retrieve his money at the same time that Sam had arrived at their apartment, and he witnessed Dan leave with Sam. Then, 3 hours later, return home without him. He says that Dan was essentially in a full-blown panic attack, and he smacked down $400 on the table. Rachel was visibly angry. A week later, while preparing for Dan and Rachel's wedding, he was informed about the murders. He made the connection that they occurred on the same day as his peculiar encounter with them, so he dialed 911 immediately. This story introduced more suspicion onto Rachel. A credible witness is now saying that she knew about the loan all along, while she is claiming that Dan was solely responsible for it. So the detectives brought Rachel back in for another interview.
Why don't you tell me why you forgot to tell me about this?
Because honestly, I was afraid that if you knew that Chris had seen us that day, I don't know who Chris knows, and I don't know if he knows me very bad. I'm
Well,
kind of afraid
you don't think
if
we were
go
going to
to
find
them,
out?
they'll come to me.
Did you think we were not going to find out?
I guess not. I don't know. I'm a little bit afraid.
Well, I can tell you.
The detectives did not believe Rachel, so they had her wear a voice stress analyzer, a lie detection device that aims to differentiate between stressed and non-stressed outputs in a response to stimuli. The National Institute of Justice says the chance of detecting deception is about 50% with these devices. However, they also say that the subjects may be deterred from lying if they think their responses can be proven false.
Did you plan the murder with Dan?
I'm trying to remember everything I can. I've told you guys everything I know. I'm completely innocent.
He's gone for 3 hours and he comes back having a heart attack.
Yeah.
We know he's out killing Sam at that point.
I thought he was just overreacting because he thought he was afraid of loan sharks and getting hurt. I'm sorry that I'm not the kind of person who just goes berserk and loses their mind when they hear this. I just sit there in shock and soak it in.
You weren't in shock.
Rachel stuck to her story, and there wasn't any physical evidence to tie her to the murders, so the detectives had no choice but to let her go for now. With Dan in jail...
Yeah, I think they really need to keep tabs on her because she wasn't in shock of anything that she heard. It seemed like the only thing that she was in shock about is that Dan wanted to come clean and tell the truth. But the way how she's been acting throughout this whole interrogation, she seems very calm. She seems like she is a mastermind. She seemed like she was well aware about what they were going to do and how they wanted that $400. And the simple fact, the whole lie about the loan shark thing where the debt was already paid, maybe what could have happened, Chris gave them that money and maybe they didn't use it for what they said that it was going to use it for. Maybe they used it as their way to have a honeymoon after they get married on Friday. And they thought maybe getting extra money out of Dan would have worked as well. That extra $400. But that's even in that, that's sad. Like someone's life is way more important than $400. That's nowhere a comparison, really. And to do all that, you took two people's lives for $400. I'm not buying it. But let's go on.
And Rachel continuing to profess her innocence, the detectives worked with the district attorney to begin building their case. After 2 years into the investigation, they finally made the decision to arrest and charge Rachel for being an accessory to murder after the fact. Basically, the only crime they could feasibly arrest her for was lying about two things: her dealings with Chris, who was at the apartment the day of the murders, and the fabricated man in the black hat, who wasn't at the apartment at all. Rachel ended up pleading not guilty, and even held a press conference after posting her bail.
Are you saying you're innocent? What are you saying? Completely innocent.
She quickly capitalized on the limelight while she was out on bail, participating in several interviews with news stations and even Dr. Phil.
Did you know that he had any involvement in these murders at all?
Not until after the police did.
I was aghast when I get a call saying you're going on TV. That offends me.
I understand, and maybe I made a bad judgment call by coming on here, but I didn't come out when everything first happened and said, oh, look at this horrible situation, I'm the victim. You didn't see me selling my story to Hollywood to make a movie.
Not yet.
Rachel wasn't the only one taking advantage of the spotlight. While in jail awaiting his trial, Dan took part in an episode of MSNBC's Lockup, where he seems to recant his confessions.
I want people to know that I'm a good guy. I enjoy long walks on the beach. I'm an Aries.
Dan began his turn in court. Orange County Senior Deputy District Attorney Matt Murphy urged jurors to impose the death penalty for Dan.
How many layers of awful do we need before the death penalty is appropriate? Before the death penalty is the only possible way we can satisfy justice in a case. He did not care about those people. And now I'm asking you to care about those people. Through your verdict, I'm asking you set this right. You take care of business when you go back there. You take care of business. Thank you.
In response to the prosecution, Dan's defense team said it was really Rachel who had manipulated him into committing these atrocious acts, and therefore Dan should not be met with the death penalty. On January 11th, 2016, after...
Yeah, I do believe Rachel was definitely involved. She probably was a mastermind. She probably did want that money. But that's not going to be enough. You could already tell that the defense is not really comfortable with their case because everything was found. Sam's bloody clothes in a book bag that Dan gave to his brother Tim to dispose. The simple fact that he went and picked up Wesley and used Sam's cars to get money out, and that $400. The simple fact that there was no loan sharks. Any money that you did owe your fellow actor Chris loaned y'all the $2,000 so y'all would not have to be bothered with the loan shark. And all of this took precedence before the 3 or 4 days before you was supposed to get married with Rachel. Yeah, it's not going to cut it. But let's see what he got.
For less than an hour of deliberation, a jury recommended the death penalty for 32-year-old Daniel Patrick Wozniak.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Daniel Patrick Wozniak, guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree.
It is death for a double murderer who needed money for his wedding and tried to frame one of his victims for his deadly deed. As CBS 2 Orange County reporter Michelle Gili shows us, the victim's family members had a lot to say to the killer.
It is the order of this court that you shall suffer the death penalty.
Convicted Orange County killer Daniel Wozniak, a community theater actor before his capture, has been sentenced to death for his real-life role as the mastermind in a gruesome double murder.
You, Dan, are a coward and a poster boy for the need of the effective death penalty in California. My only regret that in this state won't let me kill this coward myself. Thank you.
You took her precious life, and then you disgraced her. How could you do anything like that to my baby?
Dan was sentenced to death, but is currently residing at the Salinas Valley State Prison. As for Rachel, she went to trial in September of 2018, and her defense attorney tried their best to explain the flaws in her timelines and details. After 5 hours, the jury came back with a verdict.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Rachel May Buffett, guilty.
In the end, Rachel Buffett was sentenced to 32 months in prison, and around 5 of those months were shaved off due to time served while awaiting trial. She was then released in 2019. Also in 2019, Governor Gavin Newsom signed a moratorium on the death penalty in California, which means that Daniel Wozniak is not allowed to be killed via lethal injection as previously planned.
Well, serve him right. I don't think that he needs to get the injection either, right? He needs to go the old school route, and I'm surprised that even California, knowing how California is perceived to be like the beacon of of liberal, for them to still have the death penalty and do that's crazy. But what I will say is that this was a real insane case. That was a really big turn. Why? And then they never even explained why did they write that on Julie's back. Why did they even write that? What was the real hatred between all of them? Did you ask these guys, can they help fund your wedding? And they told you no. And you thought because he was in the military, he was an army dude, that he had all this money or something like that? Is that the reason why you did that to them? It's a lot that you have to think about. But prayers to that poor man and his Julie, his girlfriend. They should not have nothing like that happen. And I really truly I believe that Rebecca, she needs to have more time than what she got, because I do believe that she knew more than what she's actually leading on to. And I do think that Dan was acting on her behalf because they wanted that money for their wedding. They wanted a good amount of money, as much money as they possibly could, to go on their honeymoon. And they thought that 2 lives was worth taking for it. And that's just disgusting in nature, period. All right. So now we're going to go on to a next one. Okay. So this one is how dumb killers, they get caught on multiple cameras, and they don't pay attention because a lot of these streets now have cameras everywhere. They have cameras on the light posts, they have cameras on buildings, the way how they have them set in angles. The streets have cameras. Like, pretty much everything is being monitored, whether we like to believe it or not, right? So let's just see what's going on. Oh, let's see. Hey, Todd Works. How you doing? Thank you for coming. I appreciate you. He said, I started watching you last night, and I think your content should be showing in high school to show how stupid some of these people are. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you for supporting. Thank you. Yaya said that she should have been next. Those are some sick individuals. Hi, Jabbar Rashid. Thank you for coming. Happy New Year's and Happy New Year's Eve to all of you guys. Just make sure you're hitting the like button while you're coming in. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to view how some dumb young folks, they do things and they think they're really going to get away with it, but apparently they don't. So we're going to see how they get caught multiple times on multiple different cameras. Let's go on.
On the night of March 28, 2019, in Columbia, South Carolina, this woman, 21-year-old Samantha Josephson, had just finished her degree in political science, so she and her friends were having a girls' night out to celebrate. They ended up at Bird Dog, a bar located in Columbia's 5 Points Entertainment District. As the night wrapped up, Samantha was separated from her friends, so she decided to return home. She ordered an Uber and was captured entering a black Chevy Impala at 2:09 a.m. In the morning, her friends realized that she had not returned home, so they tried calling her, but received no answer. They also called Samantha's workplace, and it turned out that she had not shown up for her shift that day. With the help of Samantha's boyfriend, they then attempted to pinpoint her location through a tracking software that was installed on her phone. Based on her movement, it appeared that Samantha had hitched a ride from the bar, but at some point, her phone stopped tracking her location. They then decided to return to Bird Dog, where they asked the manager if they could review the bar's surveillance footage from the night before. After seeing that Samantha had entered an unfamiliar vehicle, the black Chevy Impala, her friends began to fear the worst. Her roommate immediately dialed 911.
911, what's the emergency?
Hi, we were just going to call to let you know our friend is missing.
I so you want to make a missing person report?
Yeah, it hasn't been like 24 hours or anything, but if we could go ahead and do that, like, that'd be really nice.
Yeah, it don't have to be 24 hours before you report anybody missing.
Oh, I don't know why I thought that.
Oh, no.
Yeah. We went out in 5 Points last night, and she still hasn't made it home. Her phone's dead. We don't think she, like, went home with, like, a guy or anything. Like, we're, like, actually, like, worried. So.
All right, and what is her name?
Samantha Josephson. She is a scamming.
All right, we got it. So we're going to send an officer out there so y'all can make that report, okay?
Okay, thank you so much for the help.
You're welcome. No problem.
All right, bye-bye.
Police were dispatched to Samantha's residence, and after being brought up to speed, a missing persons investigation was launched. While reviewing the surveillance footage themselves, police noticed that the black Chevy Impala had actually been circling the area for about 15 minutes before picking up Samantha. Police suspected that a predator was at large, so they released a community-wide safety announcement and a be-on-the-lookout notice for both Samantha and the black Chevy Impala. 2 hours later, at 3:45 p.m., the Columbia Police Department was contacted by the Clarendon County Sheriff's Office.
So far with the evidence that that we're getting, it seemed like Sammy made the mistake of believing that the guy who actually pulled up and allowed her to get in the car was some form of an Uber driver or a cab driver, right? This is one of the reasons why they really do instruct people, if you're going to use an Uber and a Lyft, make sure that you see the actual sign Uber and a Lyft. They're supposed to have their ID available for you to see who they are and who they work for. Don't get in the dollar cabs anymore. Now, I'm from New York, right? So we're from the era of dollar cabs. There was always people, even still today, there's guys and women who use their own personal cars, and they'll hang around where the taxi cabs or the yellow cabs or the Ubers are, and they'll offer saying, hey, I'll take you home for $3, I'll take you home for $5 and stuff like that. I even remember when I was a teenager, there used to be this van that would be out on Jamaica Avenue. And if you wanted to go to the mall that was in Long Island, instead of waiting for the bus, it was the Q85. Instead of waiting for the Q85 to take you all the way to Long Island to Sunrise movie theaters and that mall that's out there, you can just hop on in the van and pay $1.50 at that time. It was like $1.50, and you will go. It will take you all the way to the mall. So a lot of us, especially as teenagers, we used to go and do that if we was going to the mall or we had to take a stop at the mall. It's really, really important. Don't do that anymore. Like, do not jump. Like, back then it was a little bit, I guess we didn't have to worry about that much, or it seemed like we didn't worry about it that much. Most people didn't want to get caught by the police anyway, so they weren't trying to add on any other criminality to the things that they do. But now these people out here don't have no conscience, right? A lot of people will, try to kidnap your kids, all kinds of things. So if when it comes down to cab services, really make sure what you're going into, even if you have to pay the extra $20, $30. We know that they be trying to jerk people with amount of money that they use for going down the block or going to point A to point B. But that extra $20, that extra $30 could save your life. Just do not hop in the car with just any old kind of person. I don't even care if it's a grandmama, okay? A grandmother, don't do it, right? Because even if those people might not be the one that harm you, they can be accomplices to kidnap you, to bring you to a place where the person who really want to harm you is there. So just don't do it. It's not worth it. Pay that extra money. Let's go on.
In the town of New Zion. About 65 miles from where Samantha was last seen, turkey hunters had discovered a woman's body in a remote wooded area. Lacerations were found all over the body, including the head, neck, face, torso, leg, and foot. Due to these injuries, the body was unidentifiable, but was wearing the same clothes as Samantha in the surveillance footage. DNA samples were collected, and it was ultimately confirmed that the body was in fact Samantha. Chief Holbrook later told reporters that whoever had disposed of the body must have been familiar with the New Zion area, considering just how remote it was. Also, considering the severity of the injuries, the absence of blood on the ground indicated that this was unlikely to be where the murder took place. Police continued their investigation by looking into Samantha's bank records. They discovered that after Samantha's disappearance, there were multiple attempts to withdraw her money from ATMs located in Sumter, South Carolina. They obtained the security footage from the ATMs, and someone wearing a black hoodie, leather jacket, mask, and gloves can be seen attempting to use Samantha's debit card. The next transaction on the bank records led law enforcement to a Wendy's. This security footage captures the same person, now in the black Chevy Impala with a white sheet covering the back seat. Unfortunately, authorities were unable to identify who this person was, but they were now looking for a black male with a black hoodie, leather jacket, and a black Chevy Impala. 12 hours later, at 3:25 a.m. on March 30th, Officer Kraft of the Columbia Police Department spotted a black Chevy Impala 2 blocks away from 5 Points. He pulled the vehicle over, and when approaching the car, the smell of marijuana became apparent.
What's going on, sir? You got your license? You got your license on you? I'm Officer Kraft, Columbia Police Department K9. Oh, no, sir, I got a license on you. No, no license on you. Why not? Who's smoking the marijuana?
I had smoked some earlier, sir, when I was at home.
All right, man, you're going to have to step on out, man. All right. All right, here's the deal, man. I pulled your car over because it matches the suspect. Get your hand in your pocket. What are you, crazy? Get over here. Hey, get over here. Go, we're running. Hey, we're release the dog. I can't. I was just going to see if he'll stop. Bravo Mike wearing a gray sweatpants, gray sweatshirt. Walk him up. Doors blocked, 500 block. Nunez, keep going. He's going to be on your left.
After a brief chase, authorities were able to apprehend the suspect, 24-year-old Nathaniel Rowland.
Bruh. Bruh. He was out. He was out. Let's see. Hi, Kevin. Welcome back, sir. He says, Sumter, South Carolina had its issues with kidnapping of young people lately. Yeah, I've heard of that too. I've seen it on the news. A couple of articles about people being kidnapped. But wasn't he out? Jesus Christ. Listen, police departments, y'all have to make some of that gear that the guys carry. Y'all got to make it just a little bit lighter, okay? Just a little bit, all right? Even the bulletproof vest. I wear that bulletproof vest, okay? They got the lighter version and they got the heavier version. You gotta make this a little bit more accessible to do dodges, because there is going to be runaways and they're going to run. So, but boy, wasn't he out? Oh my God. Let's go on.
I got him. Get on the ground. Stop me.
I'm going to read your rights, sir, all right? You're the right to remain silent. Anything you say can will be used against the court of law. Do you understand each of these rights I've explained to you? Yes or no?
You got anything else on you? You can't run when you smoke, can you? I knew he was going to run.
Officer Kraft returned to the vehicle and was able to conduct a search based on probable cause.
10-4, I'm going to go back to the car.
During the search, he found a pink key labeled Room, a USB stick, and a pink iPhone. He suspected that these may have belonged to their 81, which is police code for missing person.
Hey, do you know what kind of...
Again, I don't understand, why do these individuals who do these type of crimes, why are they so messy, right? You're keeping her keys and her cell phone in your car, the same car that they believe they have, they have plausible cause to believe that that is the same car that she hopped into. Okay. You leave that there. It's like, I just don't understand. Y'all leave so many clues. It's just ridiculous, but I'm glad, right? Because if you're dumb, it makes their job a whole lot easier by you being dumb. So let's go on.
That cell phone R81 has?
What, the one from that was reported today? I haven't heard anything about it.
That's why I stopped it, because it matches the description.
Okay.
I'm finding the girl's cell phone and the girl's keys in the driver's seat. Yeah, that's a pink iPhone. Pink keys with a USB drive. Good for students.
Right, yeah.
And the keys labeled Room.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird.
They also found a large amount of blood in the backseat and trunk, along with blood-stained gloves, bleach, wet wipes, and an eviction letter. Kraft asked the passenger, Maria Howard, if she had noticed that there was blood in the back seat. Apparently, she didn't. Additionally, they discovered a footprint on the backseat window, and that the child safety locks on the back doors were activated, making it impossible to open the doors from the inside. Police declared the vehicle a murder scene, and it was sent to the crime lab for testing.
Hey, man. You're not under arrest, okay?
You're just going to be detained.
You're just being detained because the vehicle matches a suspect vehicle of a crime that committed earlier.
Yeah, and then sometimes you have to realize, like, these dudes, why you think they always want a woman around them, right? I'm not trying to say that women don't be accomplices to what's happening, but most of the time when they're doing acts and activity, they always have a woman riding around them, right? To make it seem, oh, I wasn't doing nothing. I was about to go take this nice little pretty little thing home and we were about to jam and, I'm about to smash. They want you to believe that, but that's because that gives them an alibi. Right. So they'll literally get a woman or get a woman that they smashing or something and put her in the car with them to try to, I'm not going by myself, or maybe she's going to advocate for me. They do things that on purpose. So, I hate to say this because it's been a word that's been overused and not used correctly, but stay woke. Let's go on.
Okay.
Nathaniel was arrested and charged for the murder of Samantha Josephson. Both him and the passenger, Maria Howard, were brought to the station for questioning. Nathaniel's clothes were collected and DNA swabs were taken for testing.
Tom. Okay. You saw all the activity going on around your car. Okay. She bled in the back of your car. 21-year-old. 21-year-old girl. Can see you on video picking her up.
According to Nathaniel, on the night of Samantha's disappearance, he was at a party and let a friend borrow his car. However, he would not provide names or any other relevant details to corroborate his alibi. When confronted with the surveillance footage, he insisted that the person at the ATM and in the car was not him. He was adamant that he did not go to the 5 Points that night and never went to New Zion where Samantha's body was found. Be that as it may, Nathaniel actually grew up in New Zion and his parents still resided there, merely 1 mile from the body disposal site. So, there was a good chance that he was still familiar with the area.
Victim was found deceased in a rural area, your neck of the woods, where you're from.
But these observations weren't enough to prove that Nathaniel was guilty. Not long after this interview, the DNA results for the blood in Nathaniel's car confirmed that it belonged to Samantha. They immediately brought Nathaniel back to the interrogation room to confront him with the new evidence.
The blood in your car is positive. It's her blood. Okay?
Just because her blood is in my fight means I was the one that did it. I didn't commit the crime, sir. I did not kidnap or murder anyone.
Unfortunately, Nathaniel does have a point here. The only evidence suggesting that he was in the Chevy Impala on the night of Samantha's disappearance is the low-quality security footage from Wendy's. So the detectives shifted their focus to Maria. Although she had told the officers that she never noticed the blood in the back seat, she later admitted that this wasn't true. Apparently, on the night of Samantha's disappearance, Nathaniel was at Maria's home. She went to bed at 1:30 a.m., but when she woke up in the middle of the night, Nathaniel was gone. At 5 a.m., Maria texted Nathaniel that she was going to be late for her shift at McDonald's if he didn't come back with the car soon. He eventually did, but she was about 40 minutes late to work. On the way to work, she noticed the blood in the back seat, and when she asked him about it, he told her to mind her business. After finishing her shift, she returned home and saw Nathaniel frantically cleaning the car with blue surgical gloves, bleach, and wet wipes. Later that night, Maria saw this clip on the news stating that Samantha Josephson had disappeared after getting in a car that looked exactly like Nathaniel's.
Columbia police say surveillance video shows the 21-year-old getting into a dark car, possibly a Chevy Impala. A license plate number was not immediately available.
Apparently, she didn't call the cops because she was scared of what might happen if Nathaniel found out. When asked why she initially lied about noticing the blood, she said that it was an accident and blamed it on being too tired to think straight. Since Nathaniel was at Maria's house following the crime, she agreed to a search of her residence. During the search, a double-bladed multi-tool with blood on it was recovered from the trash, along with a bunch of wet wipes, paper towels, and clothes covered in blood. The same clothes from the ATM footage. When inspecting the leather jacket, investigators noticed what looked like finger.
So this is what's going to be a problem for her, right? Because even if she might be telling the truth now, you've seen him cleaning the car and you allow him to dispose of blood, wipes and vacuum and all that stuff like that, bleach and stuff, trying to clean his car. You let him dispose that at your residence, not his residence, young lady, at your residence. And then when he says to mind your business, you still didn't call. You didn't call the cops. You didn't say, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I seen blood in this guy's car that I'm talking to or anything. You see, they posted the car on the news. You don't say anything, right? Like, it's going to be a hard case for her to actually try to get out of it as her not knowing what was going on, or you stay silent. Like, this is the issue with some folks, right? Sometimes you have consequences for being that bystander that just sit back and allow things to happen, right? You are looked as you're in agreement about what is going down when you do not say anything. When you realize that there was so many opportunities where you could have said something and did something, and then you didn't do it, right? Because as of right now, he just told you to mind your business, but you have not said that he has threatened you. You not have said, oh, well, you need to tell me what's going on right now. And he put his hands on you saying you better be quiet or that's going to be you. That's something that you would be able to use in the court. But if you're just saying like, oh, why you got all that blood in the bag? And he's like, shut up, bitch, and you just turn around, you go mind your business, and it's just like, a lot of people is not going to look to, they're not going to look at that as as you being fearful or that you was really against it. They're going to look at it as you didn't care. So let's go on. Let's see what else is happening.
Fingernail marks being dragged down along the side. If the mountain of evidence thus far wasn't conclusive enough, more DNA results came in. Swabs from under Nathaniel's fingernails had traces of Samantha's DNA. The blood on the clothes was also tested, and it too belonged to Samantha. At this point, authorities were confident enough to prosecute Nathaniel, and a court date was set. Nathaniel's parents were interviewed in the following days and were certain that their son had no part in the crime.
You made this thing so bad. I want to know if you did this thing and tell me. That's all I want to know. Tell me the doggone truth.
A tearful plea from Henry Rowland, the father of accused killer Nate Rowland. His parents say they were shocked to learn their youngest child is now charged in the death of Samantha Josephson, whose body was found less than 3 miles from their home. Nate's mother, Loretta, says her son is innocent.
He is a very good young man. And when I talked to him, and I talked to him yesterday, and he told me, he said, that wasn't him, and I believe him. He said, that's not him.
The couple's other son says Nate was not in the car that surveillance video shows the USC student getting into.
My son was telling me that Nate passed out at a house party.
Yeah.
He checked his pockets when he woke up. He checked his pockets, he didn't have his keys. So he walked outside to try to find his vehicle. He found the vehicle, opened the door, seen his keys, and seen all the blood inside the vehicle.
The family is not allowed to visit Nate, but this is what his father wants him to know.
But if you didn't do it, I'm all out for you. You ain't got to worry about it. I'm behind you 100%. And I know he told me, he told my wife he didn't do it.
I mean, this is to be expected, right? Most parents wants to pretend and protect their children, you know, even if they know their children did something foul, did something wrong. My thing is, if you saying that you didn't do it, why not give the name to the person that you allowed to use your car? According to you, that's what you said. You told the detectives that you let someone hold your car. So why not give the name? You didn't want to give no names. Now, I understand the whole trope, you know, snitches get stitches. I get it. But you're about to face probably life in prison, and you're okay with that. You're cool with that, right? And then on top of that, you have no reason, as into, okay, let's say you wasn't in the car, or you wasn't the woman that you know, picked her up. Like, you wasn't the guy who picked her up. How do you have her DNA under your fingernails? You dirty mother effer. How do you have her DNA under your fingernails? It's insane. Like, you can't even explain that. So, I mean, I understand why the parents don't want to believe it, because yes, you probably did the right thing. You probably raised them right, but you have to understand that this is not no child. This is not no kid anymore. This is a grown man who's probably been making a lot of decisions with that you have not agreed with for a very long time. So that is not the little boy that you raised anymore. This is a man who made decisions, and he has to be held accountable. You can't be looking at him and thinking that he's the same little boy that you raised anymore. No, that's not the case. This is another adult, and adults are capable of doing anything. It doesn't matter how they were raised. They can be raised good. They can be raised horrible. They can be raised in many different spectrums. And depending on the individual, if they want to commit a crime, if they want to hurt someone, if they want to steal, that's up to that individual. So let's go on. Let's go on. I feel for the parents, but they're going to have to, I guess, stop being in denial about their child. But let's go on.
And I know my wife ain't gonna lie about something like that. So I'm behind him 100%. But I can tell you one thing. My son is innocent. And I know that from the bottom of my heart.
Whether it be denial or a genuine belief in his innocence, their plea hardly mattered at this point, as the evidence was quite damning. About a month and a half after Samantha's murder, the 2019 graduation ceremony at the University of South Carolina took place. There was an empty seat where Samantha would have been seated.
Fellow Gamecocks, we must ensure that what happened to Samantha will never happen to any college student in the land or any person ever again. We'll ask, what's my name, before getting into any rideshare vehicle. That will certainly save lives. Class of 2019, on the count of 3, as a pledge to ourselves for our personal safety and to honor Samantha Josephson, why don't we repeat on the count of 3 all together? What's my name? My name is Samantha Josephson. 1, 2, 3. What's my name? My name is Samantha Josephson.
Samantha's family received her degree on her behalf. Leading up to his trial, Nathaniel's family started a GoFundMe proclaiming his innocence to help pay for his legal fees. It had raised $240 in 7 donations before being deactivated soon after. Nathaniel's trial began on July 19, 2021. Prosecutor Brian Gibson presented his opening statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, March 28th, 2019 was supposed to be a celebration. Samantha Josephson and friends were gathering together as a celebration of life. But what they didn't realize, what they could never have realized, is that the defendant, Nathaniel David Rowland, had his eyes firmly fixed on Samantha Josephson.
He went on to show the 5 points CCTV footage of Nathaniel's vehicle circling around the area multiple times, seemingly waiting for the right time to strike, like a predator stalking its prey. Samantha mistook Nathaniel's car for her Uber and was trapped in the car with the child locks enabled. He told the court that Nathaniel viciously stabbed her to death and described the full extent of Samantha's injuries, painting a grim picture of how twisted Nathaniel must have been to commit such a horrific crime. Prosecutor Gibson also revealed that Samantha's and Nathaniel's phones were traveling together towards New Zion before the app on Samantha's phone stopped tracking her location. Nathaniel ultimately arrived in New Zion where he dumped her body. Gibson suggested that Nathaniel did all of this simply because he was desperate for cash after receiving the eviction letter that was found in his car.
With all things being considered, the simplest explanation is the truth.
So now the prosecutor is laying it down with the opening statements. Like I said, you have to have motive, you have to have intent, and they're finding that, right? His motive is that he was about to be evicted and that McDonald's job was not going to cover the bills. That was the intent, was to, I guess, rob her or use her money. And I'm most likely thinking that the reason why he underlied her because he didn't need her to be identifying him or anything like that. So he just figured that he needs to get rid of her. But the stupid thing about it is that you go and you use her credit cards at banks and stuff like that, trying to, take out the money. Did you ask her for the PIN? Like, how was you thinking that you was going to try to take out the money from her personal account? It's not a credit card. Like with a credit card, you don't have to put in a PIN. You can just hit enter, but you're a dumb idiot. So let's go on. It's very annoying, but I would love to see what the defense attorney is going to say. My bet that the defense attorney is going to advocate for their client, that it wasn't him. He allowed someone else to use his car. He was at the club at the time when the whole incident came back, and then his car was given back to him. And that out of fear of realizing that it was blood in the back and all the stuff like that, and knowing that it was his car, that he would be the main suspect as into something happened, that he did something to her. So he decided to clean up the mess and everything like that and go back to work like anything, like nothing ever happened. He did everything out of fear. I think that that's where the defense attorney is going to lead with. But like I said, there's too many evidence against him. The biggest evidence that's against him is the fact that you had her DNA under your fingernails. So that whole you not being around her, that's out the window. Let's go on.
We believe that the simple explanation is that Nathaniel David Rowland kidnapped Samantha Josephson. We believe that the simple explanation is that Nathaniel David Rowland murdered Samantha Josephson. And ultimately, after you hear all of the evidence in this case, we'll be asking that you return a verdict of guilty of all counts, because he is indeed guilty in all counts. Thank you for your time.
I agree with that.
Thank you for your patience.
During the defense's opening statement, defense attorney Alicia Good said that the investigators actually collected several foreign DNA samples from Samantha's body, but none of it belonged to Nathaniel.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to hear this number again, and that is 0. That's the amount of DNA on Samantha Josephson's body that matches Nathaniel Rowland. 0. It's not on her clothing. It's not under her ripped and torn fingernails. It's not on her ankles. Ladies and gentlemen, there's 0 evidence that Nathaniel Rowland was the one that kidnapped and killed Samantha Josephson.
One of the key witnesses was Maria Howard. Maria gave a more detailed account of Nathaniel's suspicious behavior the day following Samantha's disappearance. According to her, when she asked where her work visor was, Nathaniel said he threw it away because it was covered in blood, and any further questioning regarding the blood was shut down.
What did he tell you?
It had blood on it.
I'm gonna need you to repeat that.
It had blood on it.
He told you that the visor had blood on it?
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you ask him?
Why would the hat have blood on it?
And what'd he tell you?
Mind my business.
Mind your business. And what, if anything, did you notice about the car at that point?
That it was like dry blood in the car, on the dashboard and beside the seats.
And where else did you see blood?
In the back seat.
What did you do when you saw the blood?
I asked him, why is it blood in the car? Did you hit a dog?
And what did he say?
Mind my business.
Maria was then asked by the prosecutor why she did not think to call the police after seeing the news report about the investigation.
Can you again explain to the jury why you didn't call the police then?
Because I was scared.
Scared of what?
For my life and my child.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Another witness was a man named Oshimer Williams, the owner of a phone repair store named Cellular City. On March 29, 2019, the day after Samantha's disappearance, a man driving a black Chevy Impala came into the store to sell a pink iPhone. When Oshimer was inspecting the phone, he found it peculiar that the wallpaper was a Christmas photo of a white woman. They couldn't agree on a price, so the man left with the phone. After the news broke of Nathaniel's involvement, Oshimer realized that he was the man who had entered his store and immediately contacted the authorities.
Were you working in your store on March?
Oh my God, this man is dumb. He is really dumb. Every place that he went with the evidence of this woman had cameras. Every place. You try to sell her phone. You try to use her credit cards and her bank card. You kept her keys to her dorm room. Like, you are so dumb. There's too much evidence behind you that you are being seen with her items. And then on top of that, the biggest thing is, it's like, okay, if you did not do it, why haven't you presented this to the police? Why haven't you given it to the police? No, you haven't done that. What did you do? You try to use her stuff. You try to get money from her for her phone. You try to get money from her credit cards. Like, this is what I'm saying. Even the whole thing, the acts that you're doing doesn't even make you seem like you're an innocent party in this, and that somebody set you up and they just used your vehicle. You're doing too much stuff. You was literally trying to rob a dead woman. How can you even look at yourself as being innocent? You're foolish. They have whole videos. Exactly, Miss Jalen. They have whole videos. There's no excuse. But let's go on.
March 29th of 2019?
Yes, ma'am. I remember, someone tried to sell me a phone that morning.
Do you remember what the person was wearing when they came into your store?
Yes, ma'am. I want to say he had a black hoodie on.
Do you see the person who tried to sell you the phone in the courtroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Where is he?
Forgot right now.
What does he have on?
In the blue shirt, tie.
Please let the record reflect that he has identified the defendant, Your Honor.
It does.
Thank you. No further questions.
Forensic specialist Thomas Beaver took the court through the many stab wounds that Samantha had sustained. He testified that she had been stabbed over 100 times.
When she presented you, what was it that you saw that grasped your immediate attention?
There were two things first. The first thing was that she had an extensive amount of insect activity on the surface of the body. And the second thing pretty much at the same time was that she had many stab wounds over the surfaces of the body.
And you mentioned the number 100. Were you able to count the number of stab wounds as you observed Ms. Josephson's body?
Yes, it's over 100, I think somewhere around 120.
Dr. Beaver went on to say that Samantha had lost so much blood that he struggled to get enough blood for a routine testing. He also identified the murder weapon and presented it to the court.
This knife has two blades, and they are relatively parallel. They are bent at the tip, and they're the size appropriate for the wounds that I saw. This is the weapon.
The investigator who took pictures of Nathaniel after his arrest also testified. During cross-examination, she acknowledged that despite Samantha's fingernails being broken and having male DNA under them, there were no marks, scratches, or any other signs of a struggle on Nathaniel when he was brought into the station.
But again, you don't see anything on him, right?
In what terms?
On his face, as far as scratches?
As far as scratches, no, I do not.
You don't see any marks?
I do not see any marks on his
Cuts?
face. I do not see cuts on his face.
Same thing with the arms?
Same thing.
Both sides?
Correct.
And his hands? Both sides?
Correct.
Thank you very much. I have nothing further.
During the closing arguments, prosecutor Dan Goldberg summarized all of the evidence presented and ended his statement with a creative plea for a guilty verdict.
Use your common sense to see a clear picture of what happened March 29, 2019. The clothing, where the body was found, a mile from his house. All of the videos showing the Impala. Mountain Brook, all the trash is found there, the blood, the knife, all the things tying him to that location. The forensic analysis of the phones, the fingerprints, the autopsy. When the smoke is cleared, the picture comes clearly into focus. And there is only one reasonable conclusion. 21-year-old Samantha Josephson did not deserve this. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, a girlfriend, and a future law student. Ladies and gentlemen, the state of South Carolina humbly asks that upon consideration of all the evidence, you return a verdict and you find Nathaniel Rowland guilty of murder, guilty of kidnapping, and guilty of possessing a weapon. Thank you.
So that's quite damaging, right? That was a very good closing statement because he brung out the real facts, right? There was kidnapping. Y'all had the child safety proof in the back seats, so she couldn't escape, right? Unless you let her out. The blood that is have been identified as hers, right? You trying to clean the scene with paper towels and wet wipes and bleach and stuff like that, and then you left it at your girl's house in her garage, in her garbage, right? Then on top of that, it's just too much things, right? There's too many evidence. You being actually caught with her items and trying to sell her items, that is like a really like nail thing about it, right? I'm looking forward to see how the defense is going to end their closing statements. I know that the biggest thing they're going to harp on is that when he was captured, he was found to not have any scratches, bruises, or anything. So there was no fight, or he have not been in some type of altercation before this, right? Then they're going to also try to harp on the simple fact is that if he has an alibi that he was at a club at such and such time, and then he left, and he supposedly allowed his car to be used, and it was brought back to him, that's what they're going to lead with. But yeah, I want to hear what the closing statements have to say. It's just too many overwhelming evidence for me not to believe that he actually did do this. And like I said, the biggest motive is that he really needed the money. And you actually see that he really did use the money because he went out of his way numerous of days to use this woman's personal stuff, her bank cards, and even to sell her phone to try to get this money. So he has motive and he has intent. Let's see what the defense have to say about this.
The defense pushed back, claiming that the state's case was purely based on circumstantial evidence and that they were ignoring key facts to build a ludicrous narrative.
Nathaniel Rowland did not have a mark on him. Not a cut, not a bruise. They checked him and nothing. The unidentified people that the state wants to just brush off like they're no big deal, they do matter. DNA evidence does matter. Her blood being in the car and Nathaniel Rowland driving the car does not mean that he is the one that killed him. Killed her. What I can ask of you is to not let your emotions dictate your decision. Don't let your emotions, the fact that this is a sad, tragic, heartbreaking case, dictate your decision when you go deliberate. That's what I can ask of you. The state has not proven that Nathaniel Rowland kidnapped Samantha Josephson. They have not proven that he has killed her, and they have not proven that he had a weapon during those crimes. They have failed at meeting their burden. I ask that you find him not guilty. Thank you.
After the closing arguments, the jury was ready to deliberate, and it would take just over an hour for them to reach a verdict.
Indictment number 2019 GS 402450, the state of South Carolina versus Nathaniel David Rowland, is an indictment for murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. This is signed by the four-person jury on 3rd, July 27, 2021.
Nathaniel Rowland was found guilty on all counts, including the first-degree murder of Samantha Josephson. Before Nathaniel would receive his sentence, Samantha's family provided a statement to the court.
Nothing will replace her. Nothing I can say will bring her back. And nothing that I can say I know will ease my family's pain and heartache. No time to say goodbye. No time to tell Sammy all the things I would have wanted to say. No time to kiss her Pamela. Nothing but memories can fill the emptiness of Sammy's passing. He is pure evil. I pray that he feels Samantha's pain.
In here are over 90 impact statements of friends and family of how they've been devastated for the last 28 months. I have repeated nightmares and visions of him, the monster, stabbing her. I have visions of her taking her last breath. I only wish we could inflict the same or more pain he inflicted upon Sammy. Please, I beg you, please, give him life and never see the light.
Nathaniel's mother was also given the opportunity to provide a statement, but the judge actually cut her off midway through after suggesting her son was innocent.
The state had accused our son of a crime that he didn't commit. You know,
I'm not going to hear any claim of innocence.
Okay.
He is guilty of murder, and I'm not listening to any claim of what he did not do.
But he's a loving child. He's a good person, very respectful, and respect others. And I thank the court.
Thank you.
And lastly, Nathaniel had a few words of his own.
So Lana says, what about the other DNA they found? So the other DNA they found on Sammy is probably DNA that from her friends when she was at the party, right? She was at a party, and you know parties are crowded. We are all bumping into each other. And when you're dancing, you're drinking, you're dancing with your friends, you hugging people, you know, happy-go-lucky stuff. So I don't think they included that extra DNA as in, like, I don't know if they can see when the time frame of when that DNA was actually on her, right? But what they're going to prove is like what was the they're going to use the evidence that they got, like the blood and stuff like that, that was in his car, her items. Then on top of that, what the defense attorney tried to move away from, that even though he might not have no bruises and stuff on him, so it wasn't a fight, what they expect to happen, right, in a stabbing case, but he had her DNA under her nails. He had her DNA under her nails. There's no excuse for you to have her DNA under her nails, right? So that's what they try to move away from. The other DNAs, they were trying to say that maybe it could have been somebody else that was at the party or something like that, that probably rolled around and did that. That's where they was leading with, but it didn't work. It didn't work at all. Obviously, he's guilty on all charges. His parents are still in disbelief because they're trying to remember the boy that they raised and not the man who's in front of them today. Let's go on.
Is there anything you would like to say?
Your Honor, I know I'm innocent. But I guess what I know and what I think really doesn't matter. I just wish the state would have done more in finding out who the actual person was, instead of being satisfied with detaining me and proving my guilt.
Hey, Kaya. Thanks for coming, sweetheart. Happy New Year.
I feel like if they would have done further research in certain areas, that's all.
Nathaniel Rowland was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He will spend the rest of his life in the South Carolina Department of Corrections. In light of Samantha's tragic death, Sammy's Law was passed.
With today's enactment of Sammy's Law, we will give passengers a greater sense of security by clearly and visibly marking the vehicles of rideshare drivers and require drivers to post unique identifying materials so riders can confirm their driver's identity before stepping into the vehicle. I want to especially thank and commend Marcy and Seymour, and Sydney's been with them every step of the way, who in the face of deep personal tragedy have made it their calling to spread awareness about ride-sharing safety through the What's My Name campaign to encourage riders to ask their drivers 3 simple words: what's my name, before entering the vehicle. We cannot begin to imagine the terrible grief the Josephson family has carried, and I'm well aware that this could have happened to any member of our community. The problem with senseless tragedies is that they are indeed senseless. Yet we can and we must strive to bring sense to the world to prevent another tragedy. It is our greatest responsibility to ensure the public safety and to implement smart policies to prevent tragedies so that no other family, friend, neighbor, or community should have to grieve as the Josephsons have and suffer another loss of a bright star like Samantha.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, right? The fact that he is claiming innocent is unnerving. I agree, because of the simple fact, like, you're not innocent, and I don't understand, why do you even believe that you're innocent? How can you believe that you're innocent? That is your vehicle, dude. And instead of you going to the police, if you noticed that there was blood in the back seat and all the stuff like that, you didn't go to the police. What you do? You went home and you tried to clean it up, and you told the girl to mind your business. Like, the steps that you took doesn't seem like you cared that whatever even happened in your back seat, if you wasn't even involved in it. You like, oh, I'm just gonna clean it up and go about my business. And then you're like, oh, shoot, I got a phone. I got a new phone I could buy. I could sell and get money from. Let me see what I can get off this iPhone. Oh, I got some credit cards and some bank cards. Let me see what I can get off of that. So were you innocent with that? Even if let's say if you did not unalive this woman, are you innocent for trying to rob a dead woman? You're not even innocent of that. So how can you sit up there and say that you're innocent? It's really astounding, because the funny thing about it is you don't really know the mentality or the psychological mindset of an individual. He could in fact believe that he's innocent, but he could be thinking that he's innocent from a serial killer or a psychopath type of level, right? I'm entitled to do whatever the hell I want to do, and I'm entitled to get to take and get whatever I need to get for someone. So if they end up standing in my way, oh well, I deserve to do whatever I need to do for myself. So I am innocent. She just got in the way. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's very unnerving, because that could actually be his mindset. Not because he actually did not kill her. He can believe that he has the right to kill her. And that is really scary. That is really scary when someone believes that they have the right to take someone's life just off of the fact that I get to do whatever I want, or you're in my way. That's crazy. Prayers to that family. Obviously, you see South Carolina had a new law that was put in reference to what happened with this case. I knew that happened up here in New York a long time ago, many times actually, and they implemented how the taxis and the cab drivers, the lifts, and they have to have identifiable numbers. They have to have a photo of them with their name, so you know. So because even now today, it's not only about just getting into random cars. You even have people who are Uber and Lyft drivers or taxi cab drivers that are still committing these crimes, and they are well employed by a particular company. It's just that, you have to be safe these days. And most of the time people should be literally going places with another person. And even now, even having an extra friend is not even enough. You might have to travel in packs, like literally 2 to 3 people. And this is not just only a women thing. This is a man things too. It's just dangerous out here. That is the dynamics of our society. Is really, really, really dangerous. All right. So the next case that I have for you guys is this individual. He's a suspect for a murder. And it seems like while he was in interrogation, he wasn't a really good, I guess he couldn't keep up alive very well, right? And we're going to see it for ourselves. So let me pull this up for you. All right, here we go.
What you are seeing now is body cam footage recorded by Detective Jay Yergis as he performs a follow-up investigation alongside Detective Roman Ehrenstein. The house they are approaching belongs to a man who was the primary suspect in his wife's disappearance.
Me too? Thanks, Jim.
Want to know my secret news? I'm tired of worrying. I wish you guys would find her. Somewhere, somehow, I wish you'd find her. Deceased or alive, I don't care. And all you're doing is waiting for me to say something a little bit different. Then you say, oh, he's lying to us. Now we got him going. If you guys think I did something, arrest me and haul me in. Because I didn't.
This is James Prokopovitz, a.k.a. Jim. As previously alluded to, Jim's wife Victoria went missing 3 years earlier. Over the years, Jim has become very resistant to law enforcement, becoming frustrated during almost every encounter.
Okay, so it was 3.5 years ago, you're asking me where I sat at a kitchen table? My God, man. And you're asking me what kind of... Do you pay attention to what your wife wears every time she gets dressed? But say, God forbid, something would happen to your wife. Would you be able to tell everybody what she had on? Or what she wore? Jesus Christ, you're asking me stuff 3.5 years ago. What roads did I go to? I'm sorry, Roman, I just don't remember.
Just one thing that I noticed is that you seem to be upset by our presence. Is it?
No, I'm not upset. It's just
Were you nervous about us coming?
No, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't nervous. I got nothing to hide.
Instead of being helpful and concerned for his wife's well-being, Jim's behavior throughout this investigation is, put simply, very peculiar, and the suspicions surrounding him can all be summarized by this very question.
Jim, why are you so certain that she's not coming back?
I just had that gut feeling, Roland. I don't know.
April 26th, 2013 was the day that the Brown County Sheriff's Office received a call from Jim to report his wife missing. The officers quickly arrived at the Prokopovits' residence to help search for any clues as to where Victoria might have gone. During this search, they discovered that Victoria had left all of her belongings behind, except for her medication.
Did she leave her purse?
Yep, purse is here.
Does she have a driver's license?
Yeah, it's right.
Oh, right, okay. But no credit card details?
No.
So she wouldn't have jumped on a plane and went somewhere?
No credit card.
Does she have a job?
No, she doesn't work. She's on disability.
For what?
Depression and stuff. She's on psychiatrist care. She had surgery. She had a colostomy. She had the bag on for about 3.5 to 4 months. This operation really threw her into a downfall.
To be specific, the downfall Jim is referring to led to a decline in Victoria's mental health and a history of misusing prescription drugs. Obviously, detectives were now more concerned as to why she would have taken her medication with her. According to Jim, he last saw Victoria in the kitchen at about 10 p.m. before going to bed. He then woke up at around 3:30 to 4 a.m., but Victoria was nowhere to be found.
You got up at 4 o'clock in the morning?
About 4 o'clock, 3:30, between 3:30 and 4.
And your wife was not around at that time?
Not at that time. I got up, started a pot of coffee, but sometimes she's down in the basement or whatever, and I hollered for her, and I thought maybe she fell asleep down there.
Sure.
And I went down, she wasn't there, went upstairs and looked. I looked all over through the house, couldn't find her.
After calling for her around the house, he got into his truck and continued to search.
First thing I did, I jumped in the truck. And I rode every road. I went up and down, because she does like to go for a walk.
When he had no luck finding Victoria, he carried on with his day as usual, clocking in and out of work without speaking to anybody about his wife's disappearance. In fact, Jim had waited about 9 hours before reporting Victoria missing at 1 p.m. This begged the question, why didn't Jim report Victoria's disappearance right away?
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Like, why you didn't report her disappearance immediately? And then on top of that, like, if you know that she's on psych meds, right? Because she had a very bad injury and it really put her mentally in a downfall, or the side effects of this medication, why she doesn't have a cell phone? And if she doesn't have a cell phone, or if she has a cell phone, why you didn't call her cell phone after you noticed that she wasn't in the house? There's a lot of things that, you said that you was doing all the searching, and then you still haven't heard anything from her. You go back to work, and then, it's just like, you just go back to regular smegular. Like, how do you do that? Like, I can't do that with any loved one in my house, or any loved one, period. Once I found out a loved one is missing, I'm on edge, okay? I'm on edge to find them, right? Prime example, that happened with my brother one time, okay? One of my older brothers. My older brother, he had made a move because he fell in love, made a move from Florida to Las Vegas. And then I got a phone call from his friends who is in Florida saying that they haven't heard from my brother in a couple of days. And he went out there. He don't know nobody in Las Vegas except this woman or anything. And he said that they was trying to call the girl. And she said that they got in a argument and he ended up leaving the house. So now I'm thinking, if they had an argument or whatever not, and he left the house, that now he's stranded because he was living and residing with her. Do you know what I did? When I heard that and I didn't hear from my brother, or nobody heard from my brother within 24 hours, I freaking bought a fucking ticket to Las Vegas, booked a hotel at the Air Force Base in Las Vegas, and I tracked down the job that he had down there to see if my brother came into work. I didn't play no games. And lo and behold, when I got in contact with his boss, he was going to work, but he did leave the house. And when he had the argument with the woman, and she threatened to say that she was going to call the police and say that he hit her and all that stuff like that. So he didn't want to be bothered. He just left the house, went to work as normal, packed all his stuff in his trucks, and he was staying at work working. But that's what you do. You know what I'm saying? Now, I know everybody don't have finances to go running around the state or the country trying to, help out every loved one. But when you love someone and that's your real loved one and you find out they're missing, you really can't think about anything else. You really want to know what's going on. You're going to call anybody who knows him, anybody who saw him, when the last time did you speak to them. You're going to do your due diligence as much as possible, even to the point where you might not even want to eat. You might not want to eat. You can't sleep. I mean, and that's how I felt. That's how I felt within 24 to 48 hours before I jumped on that plane. I couldn't eat nothing. Only thing on my mind was I need to find out where my brother is. And he's in a whole different other state across the freaking country. And I need to find him, and I need to make sure that he's okay or get him back. But let's go on.
As touched on earlier in this video, this is just the first of many of Jim's actions that clearly raised concerns about his possible involvement. That said, we must mention that Jim was not the only person to have seen Victoria on the night of her disappearance. There was also another man who also lived in the same household. This is Wesley Edges, Jim and Victoria's adult son. When detectives reached out to Wesley, he explained that he was out with friends on the night of the disappearance and that he did not return home until about 3 a.m. He did have one memory that he felt was important to tell them. He recalled an argument between his parents that took place when they returned home from a doctor's appointment earlier that day. This argument was not aggressive and was about a tablecloth from the dollar store, but he still wondered if this had anything to do with his mother's disappearance. Wes was cleared after he was able to provide a strong alibi and allowed officers to search his cell phone data, confirming his whereabouts that evening. That brings us right back to Jim. Jim claimed that he and Victoria were together in the kitchen before going to bed around 10 p.m. that night. So, police decided to search around the property for clues about Victoria's whereabouts. They studied the soil surrounding the house, but were unable to locate any shoe or footprints, suggesting that Victoria did not leave her home by foot. On that same note, there were also no impressions in the soil that were indicative of Jim searching for his wife. The Pittsfield community decided to put together a search party led by one of Victoria's daughters, Marcia Loritz, joined by a team of deputies, Interpol, TSA, and the United.
So that is very peculiar because they said that they checked the soil and they don't even see that the soil has been disrupted in any kind of fashion. You didn't see anything about her moving her footprints or anything, and you didn't even see his footprints. So he said that he went searching for his wife, but apparently he didn't go searching for his wife around their vicinity, right? Because you see they have all that land. He said that she likes to go walking. So that's kind of weird that they didn't really see any signs of any of somebody's walking or even him walking. They didn't find no footprints or anything that's disruptive in the soil. But let's go on. Well, Kevin says, technically a cell phone only tells the cell phone location. It's assumed it would with the person. Yes, that's absolutely true. That is correct. So the cell phone only is being presumed that it is with the person, but it does let you know where that item is. So that's why when we have cases where someone is like maybe a couple of miles away from where the ping on their phone is, that's how they could lead them to start looking in those areas, right? And they usually have a broad radius span of where they're going to look at. I think it's around maybe like 20 miles, 25 miles is like the normal span. After that, then it's more evidence that they have to have when they have to look further. But let's go on.
United States Marshals Service. Together with a K-9 unit at their disposal, they searched the area around Kanesh Road where the family property was located, as well as up and down state lines. Victoria was nowhere in sight.
We have no answers. We don't know how she left. We don't know where she is. We don't know if she's alive or if she's not.
Since this search was unsuccessful, Victoria's family and friends performed several more over the next couple months. During that time, detectives conducted several interviews and learned that Jim's recent activity was suspicious as well. Her family stated that Jim refused to participate in any of the numerous searches for her and kept insisting that she was dead and never coming back. Jim had even begun dating another woman, Kathy Friday, a little over a month after Victoria's disappearance. As time passed, it was clear that things weren't adding up. The detectives were running into nothing but dead ends, and with the only new leads pointing in his direction, all eyes were on Jim. So, in July of 2013, just 3 months after Victoria went missing, the detectives asked Jim to take part in a formal interview.
Why are you so certain that she's not coming back?
I just had that gut feeling, Roland. I don't know.
That says a lot, right? You started dating a woman not too long after your wife went missing, and you automatically assume that she's gone, right? That does read red flags when it comes down to investigators and detectives, because this is your wife of how many years? How long you've been married to this wife? This is supposed to be the love of your life. You know that she has mental issues because of the prescription drugs that she has to take when she had gotten sick. And you don't really have that much care anymore. You showed and you said that I looked out for her. I looked for her. I went in my truck. I looked for her. And then after that, I went to work. And for 9 hours, I didn't call the police to say that she was missing. And that was the only due diligence that you did for your wife. You have your community and everybody else out there searching for months for your wife, but you're like, nah, she's gone, she's dead. Let me go holla at Kathy now. That's gonna raise red flags, right? And he's been very combative with the detectives when they're trying to see if he does remember something else. Is there something that you might have forgot to tell us, or tell us about what happened the day before that? That night before you went to bed around like 10 o'clock or so, but he's getting very aggressive about, like, he doesn't even want to hear about it anymore. So I'm looking forward to this interrogation session that they have with Jim.
It doesn't make sense. If she was to run off, she would take some things that are
You would think she would.
If she's in my line of work, I have to go on common sense. You guys have a farmhouse in a pretty rural area. No car, no bicycle, no public transportation that's out there, no cabs, and really no friends. She goes missing during a short period of time at night. What does that leave me with?
I had nothing to do with her disappearance. You know, if anything would have occurred in that house, there's no way it would have been put back together.
Your house is cluttered. That's absolutely true. A lot of the family wouldn't accept that she would walk down the road, especially her falling.
Well, I'm sorry. She did. I thought about calling.
Calling who?
The police. But I said, she has the right to do what she wants and disappear.
This was despite the fact that you thought it was somewhat of an emergency, that she wasn't around?
Not an emergency. A little bit unusual. Guys, she'd been gone before for 2, 3, 4 hours sometimes, and she'd come home again. If you would have lived with this damn woman for 20-some years, you'd know what I'm trying to tell you.
Jim reinforced that he believed Victoria wandered off on her own as a result of her poor mental health. But the cops weren't buying it, especially since Jim seemed unfazed about the entire situation. Even volunteers involved in the search party had mentioned to the police that Jim's behavior was unusual.
Facts, and I totally agree. His behavior is unusual. You can even hear how combative he is about talking about this woman that is his wife for 20 years. You've been with this woman for 20 years. You said that sometimes she will walk off for 3 to 4 hours, but this is not 3 to 4 hours, sir. This is literally months now, right? And you have no concern in the world. In fact, you went back to dating. You have pronounced that your wife is dead. Nobody else have. And your whole community is like, why are you acting like this? You should be more concerned. You should be the one on the front line for all these search and rescue missions that the community is doing for your wife. But you have literally tapped out. And it seems you have tapped out not only mentally, but you have tapped out emotionally about even being concerned about her whereabouts, right? That's very damaging information. I agree with the detectives and them too. Like that doesn't sound right. This does not sound like someone who is mourning or longing for a loved one that you shared a life with and raised children with for 20 years. This sounds like you have some like you're even annoyed. You're annoyed that they even bringing up her presence even though she's missing. You're annoyed that they even they're mentioning her name.
I'm talking about perfect strangers, like the search parties. And what they say is that it strikes them as odd. They watch you mowing your lawn while these complete strangers to you and Vicky take their time out of their day to search for your wife.
I know, I understand that. I'm gonna live my life the way I wanna live my life. If people don't like it, they can move on. I'm not one to sit and dwell on a problem.
How come you don't sleep?
I don't know why I don't sleep, Ruth. I don't know.
How long has this been happening?
Since she's been gone.
Since it seemed like Jim was sticking to his story that Victoria mysteriously vanished in the middle of the night, detectives decided to confront him regarding his new relationship. But Jim told the police that Kathy was an old friend who he had recently reconnected with after not speaking for 30 years.
I never saw her a month ago, 6 weeks ago. Been seeing her pretty near every weekend. I swear that.
Do you go there to see her?
Yeah. If you guys are accusing me of something, I want to know right now.
Why are you getting so
Well, because you don't believe a damn word coming out of my mouth right now. That's it. I want an attorney. I'm done. You're accusing me of something now. No, that's it. I want a lawyer.
Doors open, shut.
I want a lawyer. I swear to God, I had nothing to do with my wife's disappearance.
After an extensive interview with Jim, detectives were positive that he had in fact killed his wife Victoria, but they still lacked one thing that is perhaps the most important of all: evidence. So Jim was free to go. Following this interview, Victoria's whereabouts remained uncertain for several years.
It's our big story at 10. A night of remembrance in honor of a Pittsfield woman. Her daughter is making these flyers.
The search for her continues.
We talked with a local woman whose mother has been missing for years.
It's mind-boggling because you cannot shut your brain off. There's constant no answers. You are constantly wondering, constantly searching, and you just live in this state of not knowing.
Years of searching.
Even when you know it's probably not even going to happen, that you're going to find her, you're still looking.
And years of hoping that one day a family waiting desperately to be reunited with their mother would find closure.
The sadness sets in, and then you start over the next day, and it's an everyday thing.
In 2016, 3 years after Victoria went missing, her family's suspicions of Jim continued to grow. They employed a retired homicide detective named Larry Warwick to conduct a private investigation. The audio you are about to hear is a recorded conversation between Larry and Jim.
I want you to pretend that I don't know anything about this, okay? You know what I mean?
All right.
Okay. So, what do you think happened?
I don't know.
You remember having an argument with her in the truck on the way home?
No.
So, you know the police are looking at you.
Oh, I know they are.
Yeah.
I know they are.
Yeah. Did you do anything to Vicky?
No, I didn't. I did not do nothing to that woman, son of a bitch. I loved her.
Okay. I don't mean to upset you. But I got to ask the question.
I know. I know they think I did something to her. The only thing I could have done different was lock her up in a rubber room.
Mm-hmm.
There's also been some talk in the police reports about this Kathy that you're seeing.
Yes.
Okay. You have a relationship with her now?
Yes, I do.
When did that start?
I knew her about 30 years ago.
Okay. Did you ever date her? Did you have an intimate relationship with her prior to your marriage to
No. We were just good friends.
Jim seemed to be inconsistent regarding his relationship with Kathy. He had originally told officers that he hadn't spoken with her in 30 years. However, during this call, he admits to Larry that the two stayed in touch, having phone calls every other year.
So after you married Vicky...
Yeah, and also it's very concerning to me how he was saying if I should have locked her up in a rubber padded room. Like, sir, like what makes you think that the police don't think that you have her locked up in the house now, right? It's been years. It's crazy that you would even say that about your wife, that, oh, I would have just locked her up in some rubber room. Like, the fact is that your wife is missing. You have no whereabouts. Nobody has no whereabouts. But then when they looked and searched your property, they don't even see anything like, the soil being uprooted. They don't even see tracks of her footprint that makes them believe that she did go out for a walk. Nobody saw her go for a walk at 10 o'clock at night or anything. Nobody have seen her in the whole town. Whether let's say if she is a little out of her head, they would have had spotted her and they would have had, notified the police and say, hey, I have this woman walking around, Cheryl or something like that. Nothing is being said. So the whole fact is that woman probably is still in that house. She probably still in that house. They just don't know where she is, or is whether or not if she's in whole, right? But we're going to hear what he has to really say about his relationship with the Vicky lady, because apparently he'd been keeping in contact with her throughout these 30 years while he was married to his wife for 20 years. So let's hear a little bit more.
You never had an intimate relationship with her?
No. I call her once every 2 years, 3 years.
I never saw her about 6 weeks ago.
It was clear that Jim was lying about this relationship, but that wasn't the only thing he lied about. Footage from a surveillance camera at a nearby Shell gas station revealed that Jim had not actually searched there as he had claimed. This led to a second search warrant being obtained for Jim's home and belongings. A deep dive into Jim's bank records showed that he and Victoria had some serious financial issues, including unpaid medical bills and a foreclosure. Jim had also removed Victoria from his family medical and dental insurance a few months before she disappeared, switching to individual coverage instead. The detectives met with Jim again, looking to re-question him regarding how he and Kathy reconnected.
Now that's crazy. So, your wife is sick. Your wife, you have a lot of medical bills because she's sick. And they found out that you removed her off your insurance months before she actually went missing. And you said single. Now, you said that you didn't have no argument with this woman. You said that you loved this woman and all the stuff like that. So if you didn't have any argument and there wasn't even an argument prior to her missing, why would you remove her off your insurance policy? Why? Who does that, right? But this is someone, it seems like this is someone who was planning to make this woman disappear and go missing for quite some time. And he was setting up all the finances to do that. But let's hear a little bit more how he gives detail about his relationship with Vicky and see how much of a liar he is, because he's definitely lying about a lot of stuff now, and it's clear to see.
Walked into the casino. I was walking around looking for a machine to play, and I thought I recognized her. Mm-hmm. And I walked up and I said, "You look familiar." And then at first she didn't recognize me, and then she did. When I
been a long time, like 20 years or what?
Almost 30 years.
30 years, yeah, of course.
Again, Jim withheld the information regarding his biannual phone calls with
It'll be
Kathy.
health.
Detectives also wanted Jim to retell the moments surrounding Victoria's disappearance. As they pushed for new information, tensions rose, and Jim's roller coaster of emotions was on full display.
Your best recollection, where in the house was the last time you physically saw her?
Right here in the kitchen when I walked into the bed.
And that was at 8:39.
About 8:30. I want you to tell me where you were seated when you guys did. Do you remember?
No.
Okay.
It was at 3.5 years ago. You're asking me where I sat at a kitchen table, and you're asking me what kind of. Do you pay attention to what your wife wears every time she gets dressed? If you do, you're a good man. But But say, God forbid, something would happen to your wife. Would you be able to tell everybody what she had on or what she wore? If you guys think I did something, arrest me and haul me in.
So Kevin said removing from life insurance would have been more telling. Not necessarily, right? Because if she's on life insurance with him, right, or he has a policy on her, he's probably the owner of the policy. So meaning he will get the money if it does end up not being alive, right? So it really doesn't really bother him to remove her from the life insurance thing. However, removing her for the health is that he no longer has to deal with her medical bills and the money that he has to spend for the medication that she has to take, right? So that would make sense why he will remove her from the health and probably not the life insurance, because if he owns the policy, it will benefit him. There goes the motor, right? It would benefit him for her to disappear and be gone.
Because I didn't. I'm tired of worrying. I wish you guys would find her, deceased or alive. I don't care. And if she comes back alive, good. Then everybody will look foolish. And all you're doing is waiting for me to say something a little bit different. Then you say, oh, he's lying to us. Now we got him going.
He was then asked to reenact his search efforts from the morning he discovered his wife missing, including his stop at the Shell gas station.
Do exactly what you did.
And I walked over here and said, honey. Okay, she didn't answer. Okay, then go ahead. Then I went here, went down in the basement. Go ahead. Thought she was down here. Turn the light on. Down the steps. Honey! Okay. I walked over here, I think it was. I don't remember. It was here first. Look. I walked over here, opened this door. It wasn't open. I looked in here. Okay. Did something. Nothing here. Okay, that's what happened. Walked around in here a little bit. Didn't see her hollering all the time. That's when I jumped in the truck. Open. I find her at the chest. Shut it up. I drove by here. Okay. Didn't go in. Didn't go see if anybody was there. Didn't see anybody. There was no cars here. No nothing here.
Gotcha. Okay.
Went around. And I might have missed the road out here.
And that's perfectly understandable.
Jesus Christ, you're asking me stuff 3.5 years ago. What roads did I go to? I'm sorry, Roman. I just don't remember.
But it was just one thing that I noticed is that you seem to be upset by our presence. Is it?
No, I'm not upset. It's just.
Were you nervous about us coming?
No, I wasn't nervous. Okay. I wasn't nervous. I got nothing to hide.
When we are here to try to help bring answers to you about the woman that you say you love.
I did, and I do.
I believe that. We want to give you those answers.
This visit confirmed that Jim was purposefully misleading detectives regarding his trip to the gas station and his relationship with Kathy. So, the detectives decided to speak directly with Kathy, hoping that she would slip up and admit the two had remained in touch throughout Jim's marriage. But Kathy provided the same false story that Jim did, stating that the two had just bumped into each other at the casino. She also stated that she felt Jim was completely innocent.
And has he ever given you any indication that he had something to do with it?
I truly believe him because I did not have anything to do with it.
So what's the best guesstimate?
Is she somewhere else alive?
No.
How do we know that?
We can track people financially.
Okay.
Since Kathy also lied to the officers, police now had enough evidence to charge Jim and Kathy with perjury and obstruction of justice. However, Jim continued to maintain his and Kathy's innocence. On May 8, 2019, both Jim and Kathy were set to testify under oath at a preliminary hearing, held by the court to decide whether there was enough evidence to send the case to trial. During their testimonies, the couple lied on the stand before being confronted with the recordings that highlighted their conflicting stories. After realizing that they were caught, they both went silent and refused to provide any further testimony. Directly following this hearing, detectives brought Jim to the station for one more interrogation, as they now had a theory as to where Victoria's body was disposed. Jim worked for McKeefre's, an excavation company contracted by the Georgia Pacific paper mill to transport sludge or ash to something known as a sludge pond. These ponds contain highly toxic waste capable of disintegrating most materials, including human bodies. Law enforcement believed that Jim, having access to the pond, might have disposed of Victoria's body there.
Jim, what would happen to a body if you put it in those sludge ponds where you worked?
I don't know. You'd probably never find it.
Do you think the police can prove you killed your wife if we don't have Vicky's body?
I've heard people being convicted without finding the body, so I assume yes.
You're under arrest.
I know.
Kathy's been placed under arrest. Now, when she took the stand, she got the same admonishment that you did. We know that there are some things that weren't true. The meeting at the casino did not happen.
No, it did not.
Under the immense pressure of Kathy being caught in the crossfire, Jim finally began to crack.
How does the casino story, how does that come about? Be honest with me.
We just figured it'd be better than saying we met and shacked up right away the first night. And
essentially, you've been lying to Roman and I for a long time. Today, you lied on the stand to the judge, the court, okay?
Is that accurate, Jim?
yeah, well, I lied about how we met. And
Did you know that lying to us was wrong and illegal?
Yeah, in a way. I mean,
didn't feel good.
No, but
you weren't at that station.
I swear, I went by the station and didn't see anybody or anything.
Well, you can see a certain amount of road with the cameras, though.
You swear to God I was by there. By that station.
It didn't happen, Joe. That didn't happen. Because video doesn't lie, Jim. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Vicky's dead.
Yes.
She's not here.
She's not here. I don't know if she's dead. I don't.
She doesn't go poof.
I know.
He's starting to break, and he's one tough cookie. I tell you that much. He is one old tough cookie, because he was able to keep up with that facade for 3 years before they actually started breaking on him. And I think the biggest thing that led to him being broken is because how they was able to break Vicky and know that they didn't go to no casino, they didn't shack up. Then also with the video, you wasn't out there searching at the gas station. You didn't go there because the gas station has video. So they should have been able to see that you parked or you even rolled by at the pump, and they can't confirm that. So it seems like what they're thinking about him using his job to possibly dispose of her, that could be quite plausible, right? Because he knows what happens at his company. He knows what those sludge are meant for and what they can do. So this is turning out to be real gruesome, guys. It really is. But let's go on with the interrogation.
You were the last one to see her. You were the last one with her. You were the last one to hear her.
I don't know. If I knew, I'd tell you right now.
You need to tell us what the heck happened so that we can clear her and get her.
Honest to God, Jay, she had nothing to do with it.
No.
I tell you right now because I don't want Kathy in trouble.
You don't want to be caught. You didn't want to be caught today on the stand.
And you lied.
All right. You don't want to be caught now.
Okay, I'll admit, I killed her. There, I killed her. Kathy had nothing to do with it.
While this was a huge breakthrough for the detectives, Jim later recanted his confession and continued to profess his innocence. Following this interview, Jim and Kathy were immediately charged with first-degree perjury, conspiracy to commit perjury, and obstruction. Jim was also charged with first-degree intentional homicide with a domestic abuse modifier.
The Brown County man now charged with first-degree intentional homicide in the death of his missing wife. James Prokopovich is also charged with perjury and resisting or obstructing an officer. His girlfriend, Kathy Friday, also charged with perjury and resisting or obstructing an officer. Victoria Prokopovich went missing on April 25th, 2013. James was arrested May 8th, 6 years after her disappearance. Katie Anderson tells us what court documents have revealed so far.
Both Prokopovits and his girlfriend Catherine Friday appeared in court. Today, Prokopovits via video conference from the Brown County Jail and Friday in person with her attorney. Prosecutors say James would have been the last one to see Victoria before she went missing. James indicated he searched for her for about an hour and a half before going to work that day. He gave no indication to his co-workers that he was worried his wife was missing. Prosecutors indicate sledge ponds by the Austin Straubel Airport are located on James's way to work, and he has access to them through his job. James maintains through the criminal complaint that he did not kill his wife, but admitted to knowing if a body were placed in the pits, it would not be recovered. A number of witnesses indicate James acted strange and distant throughout the duration of the investigation. Several people also say they were concerned about his relationship with Kathy Friday so soon after Victoria's disappearance. Prokopovits and Friday both told investigators they met randomly at a Wittenberg casino in June of 2013. But small details of their story changed several times over the years as investigators kept questioning them. Friday says she lied about when she met Prokopovits because she was embarrassed.
Kathy ultimately pled guilty to her charges in July of 2020. Later that year in November, shortly before her sentencing, she died in her cell at the age of 68. According to reports, officers found a letter in her cell expressing her desire to end her sentence early. Jim appeared in court on February 15, 2021. Prosecutors were seeking the maximum sentence.
So it seemed like Kathy, out of guilt, she kind of took her life. I don't know how she was able to do that, but it seemed like she didn't want to actually live the rest, live whatever time she was supposed to live in prison. So she decided to, exit quickly. That's also telling too, and that's not going to help Jim either, right? Because he still has to go to trial. He still has to get his the verdict in. And now her leaving a note stating that she just wants to end her what's the name. She already knew that she was guilty. She even pled guilty. So let's see what happens.
Life in prison for the then 75-year-old.
Now to the homicide trial of James Prokopovits, which began today in a Green Bay courtroom.
Well, the prosecution's case is well underway in the Brown County Courthouse behind me. This morning, the jury arrived. That's 9 women, 6 men to hear the case. It started with opening statements, the all-important opening statements, with the prosecution laying out a very circumstantial case against James Prokopovits. Now, they say that marital discord, infidelity, abuse, and contradicting stories will point to him as the only one with the motive to end his wife's life back in 2013.
The prosecution asserted that Jim killed his wife and transported her body to the sludge pond located at his job site, in which he disposed of her body. They also claimed that Jim's desire to be with Kathy is what motivated him to murder Victoria.
As the investigation continues, you'll hear more about information that officers are gaining with respect to Jim and Vicky's relationship. You'll also hear evidence and testimony that within several weeks of Vicky's disappearance, defendants asking his employer about removing her from his insurance that he has through his employment, ultimately doing so in September of 2013. You'll hear during the course of an interview with law enforcement, the defendant admitted to being involved in Vicky's disappearance. Quote, "Okay, I'll tell you. Okay, I'll admit I killed her. I killed her. There, I killed her," before retracting that comment a few moments later. The truth in this case is in the lies. The truth, if you carefully consider the evidence in this case, the state believes you'll find the truth in this case is that the defendant killed Vicky and that he's guilty of all 4 charged offenses. Thank you.
Although there was a lack of physical evidence tying Jim to his wife's disappearance, the state hoped that the evidence presented was still convincing enough to help secure a conviction. The defense faced a tough challenge, so they leveraged both the defendant's age and Victoria's medical history to create as much doubt as possible.
Ladies and gentlemen,
So it makes really perfect sense that that's the route that the defense attorney has to go with him. Her body has not been found. It's been like I said, nobody else have seen any whereabouts from her in the whole entire town. And just because her body is gone doesn't necessarily mean that he did it. But what they're going to harp on is the simple fact that he's such an older fellow that he wouldn't be able to do this, because of the state, his health condition. And that not only did his wife have a health condition, he also have a health condition. So he's not in the right state to even, to perform this type of situation. But we'll see did any of that fly, because I think it's quite damaging that Kathy, the one that you wanted to be with, ended up, pleading guilty even before her sentencing and left a note. But let's go on.
Jury. What the state has not told you is Victoria Prokopovich has suffered from mental health issues since a teenager. She's been seeing a counselor since 1971. She was 18 years old. And she struggled with her mental health since that time. Since that time, she had been diagnosed with multiple personalities, where she had several different individuals. She was diagnosed with depression, anxiety. The state wants you to believe that my client, at 68 years old, perfectly executed his wife's murder to the point that nobody can find her. You're not going to hear how it happened. You're not going to know when it happened. You're not going to have proof of a body. A 68-year-old man got rid of his wife, a grown woman, so perfectly that the house wasn't disturbed. My client opened up his house, he opened up his life to let the police search. And yet we sit here today with no body and no evidence of how she disappeared.
The trial would go on to last 2 weeks, with the prosecution focusing on Jim's behavior after Victoria disappeared. They also highlighted the contradicting statements that he made to detectives during his interviews. Wesley was called to the stand, where he testified that Victoria and Jim argued over a tablecloth on the day that she vanished.
On that day, at some point in that afternoon, do you have dinner with your parents?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember at that time how everybody's interacting and what's happening?
I remember confrontation about Jim not wanting to go to the dollar store for, I believe it was a tablecloth.
On that date, now you're on your way home.
Yes.
Okay. And as you get out of your vehicle, what happens?
He was walking up to the house, and when I pulled in, first thing he said to me was, "Mom's gone."
What did he say?
I woke up and she's not here.
And then what happened?
He said he's been out looking for her, and that he's going to go out and continue looking for her.
Was there a discussion, Wes, about calling authorities?
Yes. I asked him if he called the police. He said he was going to call.
On the day that she left, were there some cigarettes do you remember there were cigarettes left behind?
Yes.
Did your mom smoke?
A lot.
If you saw her leaving the house, she would most certainly have them?
Most definitely would have had them.
Okay.
Victoria's daughter Marcia also testified that Jim appeared more focused on moving forward with his life than on finding Victoria.
On that day, did you have the opportunity to hear anything else Jim may have said that was concerning to you about your mother being missing?
Yeah, he was sitting in the kitchen at the table and he's like, "I don't know what we're gonna do with all of her shit. Look at all this stuff. This place is too big for two people. I know she didn't want an obituary. We're gonna have to call up a U-Haul or something like that to take all this stuff to Goodwill." We didn't know where my mom was. So that was confusing. And the only thing I knew is in the pit of my stomach is I thought, something's not right. We still haven't found her, so why are we talking about getting rid of her things?
Sure. In the ensuing days and weeks, were there any other references made by Jim about saving money with your mother gone?
Yes, there was a day that we sat at the table and he was telling us how much money he was saving because the lights weren't on all the time. and that he had dropped her off his medical insurance. And then that was when he also shared with us that he had a lady friend. He had met this lady friend, and that wasn't like he just met her, but that he'd known her for years. And that we would really like her, that she had 2 kids our age, and that had he known that she got divorced, he'd have never married my mom.
Detective Jay Yergis, the state's final witness, was asked by attorney Lumcool to detail his...
Oh, that is so sad. That is so sad and heartbreaking, right? Because literally the kids have to come up there and they have to just pretty much explain how detached their father was in reference to their mom. Want to hurry up and pack her stuff and give it to Goodwill, saying I'm saving a lot of money because she's not here anymore, wasting the electric bill and all the stuff like that. That's quite disturbing. But one of the key things that I heard from the son is that his mom was a heavy smoker. She always had her cigarettes on her. So you know what that leads me to believe? If she did go walking, she had cigarettes with her, she would be smoking cigarettes. Why was no cigarette butts found anywhere with her DNA? Smokers don't hold on to their cigarette butts. They toss them. So if she's a heavy smoker, why weren't they able to find any cigarette butts along the house, along the street in front of their house that had her DNA on it? Very, 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 very heartbreaking and disturbing. But let's go on.
His observations of Jim's behaviors during the investigation.
In the 6 years that you were investigating this case, would there sometimes be periods, months where you wouldn't necessarily have an update for the family?
That's correct. Sometimes it was intentional.
Okay. And would, in those instances, be situations where the family would then reach out to you to inquire as to the status of the investigation?
That's correct.
And you said those individuals would be Marcia, would be Stacy, would be Wesley and their families. At any point, was one of those individuals James Prokopovits?
Mr. Prokopovits never inquired about the status of the investigation.
You interviewed Mr. Prokopovits several times in your 6 years investigating the case?
Yes, I did.
And I think you said at one point it was 1 or 2 times a year. Is that right?
That's correct.
So there would be periods of time where you would go 6 months, maybe more, without talking to Mr. Prokopovits?
Correct.
And in those timeframes, he never once asked you for a status update on the investigation?
Never. Mr. Prokopovits was crude, vulgar, uncaring, disinterested, unattached, detached, uninquisitive, wanted no information, didn't want to cooperate, was sick of answering questions, not what is normal with victim families in my experience.
Jim's defense did not call any witnesses, but they asserted that the prosecution had failed to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. During the closing arguments, the prosecution reminded the court that Jim wasn't facing charges due to physical evidence. He was there based on his actions alone. They highlighted several times that Jim shot himself in the foot by being confrontational, unhelpful, and unusually distant. They also highlighted his strange string of lies regarding Kathy, driving home that this new relationship was his motive to commit murder. Jim's defense locked the jury's focus on the fact that the prosecution's evidence is based on emotional conclusions, arguing that they used emotional tactics in the hope of swaying the jury towards a guilty verdict. They also reminded the court that Jim has a right to a presumption of innocence.
Don't let the state invoke your emotions when it comes to the law. Use your common sense. Use your own experiences. That's what jury instructions say. The judge read it to you. It says you can rely on your own common sense. Jim doesn't have to prove his innocent. He starts being innocent. At the end of the day, you're going to look through all the evidence, all 100 and some exhibits, and you're going to see that the state took 2 weeks to prove nothing. At the end of the day, you're going to find my client not guilty. Thank you.
After more than 20 hours of jury deliberations, a verdict had been reached.
Let the record reflect the verdict has been received by the court. It is in proper form. It has been dated and signed by the foreperson who identified themselves. In the state of Wisconsin versus James M. Prokopovich, file 19 CF 716, as to the offense of first-degree intentional homicide as charged in count 1 of the second amended information, we, the jury, find the defendant, James M. Prokopovich, the verdict has been marked guilty. As to the offense of obstructing an officer as charged in count 2 of the second amended information, we, the jury, find the defendant, James M. Prokopovich, has been marked guilty. As to the offense of conspiracy to commit perjury before court as charged in count 3 of the second amended information, we, the jury, find the defendant, James M. Prokopovich, guilty.
James Prokopovich was found guilty on all charges, which included first-degree intentional homicide, perjury, conspiracy to commit perjury, and obstruction. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Jim currently resides at the Green Bay Correctional Facility in Alouez, Wisconsin. Now that we're at the end of this video, you may be wondering why exactly we titled it, Jim is a Horrible Liar. Well, here is a quick summary. First, Jim told the officers that he searched for his wife in public locations. When officers checked the cameras at these locations, Jim was nowhere to be found, calling his credibility into question. Then, Jim tried to keep a new girlfriend secret from the public due to shame, which ultimately became his supposed motive to commit murder. Not only that, but he also conspired with his new girlfriend to do the same, which resulted in her facing charges as well. And to top it all off, in a heroic moment of self-perceived selflessness, Jim confessed to Victoria's murder, hoping to free his new girlfriend from possible charges.
Hey, I'll be caught now. Okay, I'll admit, I killed her. I killed her. There, I killed her. Kathy had nothing to do with it.
In the end, Jim was convicted for the murder of his wife, with many viewers in the true crime community left wondering if he really did do it. So, if you ever find yourself accused of murder, whether you did it or not, don't be like Jim.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sorry. I'm glad that he got sentenced. I truly do believe that he did do something to his wife. Or if he didn't do something to his wife, let's say, for example, this is just a hypothesis, even though this case has already happened. But let's say his wife died in her sleep, right? Or he found her lunched over in the kitchen, right? He did something to the body. The body cannot be found. Okay, so that doesn't even make you innocent in that. If she did pass away from natural causes, you still got rid of the body, and you kept on saying disappear, disappear, disappear. That is very alarming, right? You was quick to say that she was gone. You was the first one that said that she was dead. Those are very alarming factors to it. And you were saying that throughout the years. She's dead, she's gone, she disappeared, disappearance. Those words are very telling about how you approach the situation. You're speaking about a loved one. You're speaking about your wife for over 20 years. And you're treating it as if she is I guess a wandering dog that you never owned or anything like that. And you found a dog is missing, or somebody said a dog's missing. Oh, poor is me. What's for lunch? That's how he treated the whole situation. So what he didn't understand is that even the way how he came to the case, it was alarming to people, because you don't really act like that for a loved one, especially your wife that you have for 20 years, unless you no longer want to be, married to her anymore. You find her of a nuisance or of a problem that you have to get away from. And then on top of that, to me personally, what sealed the deal is what his lover did, the Kathy woman. She made sure she took her own life so she wouldn't even have to be sentenced. And she wrote a note saying that I prefer to experience my sentencing before it actually happened. So that's what did it for me. But, I feel so sorry for this woman. Prayers to this woman and her family. I know it happened a very, very long time ago, but that's something that can haunt a whole town, because it's not like everybody in the town didn't know Jim, or know his wife or his kids, and to be around someone, probably broke bread with someone, had dinners with them, Christmas and stuff like that, and then to come to find out that they would do something like that to their spouse and dispose of their body like that, that can damage a whole community. I guarantee you, it can definitely damage a whole community. All right, so the next case that I have for you guys is a very old one. And it actually has something to do with a serial killer that I have come to know now. I didn't know before, but his name was Shawn Grate. And I want to hear about it because I guess the details within this case was quite disturbing, quite frightening. So let's view it with each other. Here we go.
At exactly 6:48 a.m. on September 13th, 2016, in the city of Ashland, Ohio, a woman that we can only refer to as Jane Doe was currently on day 3 of being held captive and used as a sex slave. She was tied up, but was able to free herself and sneakily get a hold of her captor's cell phone while he laid asleep directly next to her. She made sure the phone volume was turned all the way down, and then she dialed 911.
911, what is the address to your emergency?
4th Street Laundromat.
What is it?
4th Street Laundromat.
What's the problem?
I've been abducted.
What's your name? How do you spell your last name? Who abducted you?
Shawn Grate.
This is Shawn Grate. Shawn was born in 1976 and had one brother. He and his brother lived with their mother and father until Shawn was just 6 years old. His mother and father then divorced and separated. Although Shawn's mother had surrendered all custody of the two sons, Shawn made the decision to continue to live with his mother. During his teen years, many people that knew Shawn personally described him as a ladies' man who was always smiling and very charming. However, there was also many others who thought of him as a rude, controlling, short-tempered, and even violent person. So, before we can get back to this disturbing 911 call, let's take a bit of a dive into the life events of Shawn Grate. When Shawn Grate was just 18 years old, he was arrested following a domestic dispute where Shawn had grabbed his girlfriend by the throat and began to choke her. 5 years after that incident, when Shawn was just 23 years old, Shawn Grate was involved in another domestic dispute. This time, he had broken into his 17-year-old girlfriend's home before he choked her and then threatened to kill her if she told anybody. Just 8 months after this incident, Shawn's violent tendencies repeated themselves. This time, Shawn camped underneath the couch of the same 17-year-old girlfriend he previously assaulted, and when she arrived home, Shawn attacked her and her sister with a butcher knife. Thankfully, the injuries were not severe, and Shawn Grate was arrested again. Shawn Grate then spent 4 years behind bars following this attack, and was released in early 2003. During the years following Shawn's stint in jail, Shawn went on to have 3 children, 2 of them with separate ex-girlfriends, and 1 of them during a short-term marriage. During the divorce and subsequent custody battle, Shawn's ex-wife stated that Shawn once said, "If I can't see my daughter, then no one will." In 2005, Shawn dated a woman by the name of Christina Hildreth, and eventually moved in with her. A number of incidents occurred involving violence and controlling behavior until one day in June of 2010, these issues became much worse. Shawn Grate began to choke and repeatedly hit Christina in the face. During an attack, she received multiple bruises and cuts to her face as well as a broken hand. Due to the severity of her injuries, Christina was able to persuade Shawn into allowing her to visit the hospital to get treatment. Shawn went along with her to ensure that nothing was said about him attacking her. While checking into the hospital, Christina told the intake nurse that she had tripped and hurt herself during the fall. However, as soon as Shawn left the room, Christina admitted to the nurses that Shawn had actually attacked her. Shawn left the hospital immediately after discovering that the police had been contacted regarding the assault. Just 4 days later, a panicked Christina called the police after noticing her toilet seat was left up. She was slightly hysterical because this led her to believe that Shawn had been inside her home and was planning to attack her. When the cops asked if she had seen Shawn following her, she stated that she didn't think that Shawn was following her, but that he was actually hiding inside the bottom of her couch. The cops arrived at her home quickly after the call was made, and Shawn Grate was discovered exactly where Christina thought he would be, inside the hollowed-out portion of the bottom of her sofa. Shawn was then arrested again and subsequently sentenced to spend 6 months behind bars.
Okay, so far of hearing this man has had a very disturbing criminal history of domestic violence towards all the women that he has gotten in relationships with, even as the age of a teenager. I think that at this point, this is when I'll say some fault has to happen with the law enforcement, right? Because when you start looking at somebody criminal history, and not to say that everybody with a criminal past is going to continue to live a criminal life, but in certain situations, you gotta take certain things seriously. Like him choking a 16-year-old, him choking a 17-year-old, him, choking and breaking the woman that he had children with nose and stuff, and then marrying and being abusive. Then, like, yeah, all this is documented information that this person has a problem. He has a problem where he is controlling and he cannot keep his hands off of women that he comes across with. All these women are stating that he's very charismatic, he's charming, which is probably why they even decided to give him a chance and feel that he was cool. Obviously, he wasn't showing these signs of being that controlling or being someone who will put his hands on someone prior in the beginning of their relationship. It started to become a habit later on that got worse. And then he has a history where they're finding him hiding under people's basements, hiding under people's beds, hiding under people's couches to jump out and attack. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, I feel like they kept on dropping the ball because he had to do time in jail for it. And then if he gets arrested from another incident about domestic violence or abusing someone or using a knife, why are you only giving him 6 months and stuff like that? That's what I'm saying. But let's go on.
After his release, it appeared as though Shawn Grate was trying to avoid any more trouble. He had a bit of a hard time holding onto a job and had spent a bit of time homeless. However, it wasn't until 2016 that Shawn Grate would return to his previous ways. This brings us right back to the September 13th phone call at the beginning of this video.
Where's she at now?
Asleep.
Where's she sleeping at?
In the bedroom.
In what bedroom?
There's 2 houses right by the laundry street. And it's in one of those houses.
But you're at the laundromat?
No, I'm in the bedroom with them.
What color's the house? Is it across? If I'm looking at the laundromat, which way is it?
If you're looking in the laundromat, it's one on the left of the 2.
You don't know what color the house is?
Yellow. Please hurry.
Does he have a car?
No. Well, he's down the street.
So what's your phone number you're calling me from?
I don't know.
And you think it's a yellow house?
I think so, but it's on the left.
Is it an apartment?
No, it's a house.
Okay, does he own the house?
No, he broke into it.
Does anybody actually live there?
I think they've been abandoned.
And his name is Shawn Grate?
Yes.
Like Grate?
Yes.
Does he have a weapon?
He's got a taser.
Over the next few moments of the call, Jane Doe would go on to describe Shawn's appearance as well as her own appearance. Dispatch would then ask her how she was taken.
Where did he take you from?
My apartment. I was walking with him.
You were walking with him?
Mm-hmm.
Where were you walking to?
I've known him for like a month and a half.
Is there any way you can get out of the building?
I don't know without waking him, and I'm scared.
Is there a bathroom in the house?
Well, his bedroom is closed, and he made it so it would make noise.
And if you told him you had to go to the bathroom, he would do something to you?
Yeah, because he had me tied up.
So are you tied up now?
Well, yeah, but I kind of freed myself.
Is he in the same room with you?
Yes.
Is it his phone you have?
Yes. Are they on the way?
Yeah, we have officers we're sending.
Please send enough.
Are you bleeding from anywhere?
Not anymore.
What were you bleeding from? You don't have to talk if you don't need to, okay?
Oh shit, I woke him up.
You just set the phone down.
Hi, Eva.
Are you still there? Are you still there?
I'm a stalker.
At this moment, Jane Doe had made a sudden movement that accidentally bumped into the trigger of Shawn's stun gun. Though she was frightened that she may have woke him up, he stays asleep.
I'm a stalker.
Do you hear any officers outside?
No.
Okay, they're in the area.
See if they can come in the side door slow, like, softly.
Is there a padlock on the bedroom door, or is it just a regular lock?
No, I don't even know if it's locked.
Can you get up and see if you can get out?
I'm afraid of waking him.
Is there a window around there you can look out?
Yeah, but the floor squeaks and it's right by his head.
Are you laying down?
No, I'm standing right by the bedroom door.
And you can't open it?
What?
Can you open it?
I'm afraid without making noise.
Is the door to the house open?
I don't know, probably, maybe. I don't think he has a key, I'm not sure. Because I think he broke in here.
If you think you can get out, you need to get out.
Not unless they were right here. Okay, I can hear him. Yes, I do.
Okay, do you think you can get out? Are you out of the bedroom?
Yes.
Can you get out of the bedroom?
And the door is...
Can you hear anybody right now?
I heard the side door open.
She heard the side door open.
So Ebo said, what is this subject? This is crime and psychology. Right now, we're going over a case of a serial killer named Shawn Grate. It's a frightening case. It has more details of what he was doing. So far, they have shown that he had a history of domestic violence and basically breaking and entering into women that he used to date or marry or had children with and hurting them. So we're listening to a 911 call for one of his victims that he has abducted.
I'm out of the bedroom.
You're out? Okay, can you get to the door where you can see out? Huh? Can you get out of the house? Are you at the door?
Yeah, I am.
She's at the door. You're on the door to the right-hand side of the house.
Yeah.
She's at the door on the right side of the house. She got out of the bedroom. Is there a window there?
Yeah, I'm looking out and they tell me to come back.
She said,
hurry, hurry.
She said to hurry up and come back. Can you unlock the door at all?
Come on out, hurry up, get out here. Where is he?
Bedroom sleeping.
Still sleeping?
Yeah.
Right now. Do it.
Police arrived on the scene and placed Shawn Grate under arrest. As it turned out, Shawn had actually known Jane Doe for just under a month and a half before kidnapping her. Just 3 days earlier, on September 9th, 2016, Shawn Grate and Jane Doe were out having lunch when Shawn explained to her that he had quite a few articles of clothing that he could give to her. As the two entered his home, Shawn Grate began to act strange and became slightly physical. He then said to Jane Doe, "You're not going anywhere." It wasn't until after Shawn Grate was arrested that the disturbing details of his criminal behavior were uncovered. Forewarning, it only gets worse from here. On September 13th, 2016, following the 911 call, the police arrived at the home of Shawn Grate and entered to a putrid smell. A smell that officers were able to identify and immediately believed it was the smell of several bodies decomposing inside the house. They proceeded with caution until Shawn was in custody, and then they searched the home. They found the naked and badly decomposing body of a 29-year-old by the name of Elizabeth Griffith, who had been missing since August. She was known to have been suffering from mental health issues and was last seen at a Walmart in Ashland. The investigators also went on to find the body of another woman in the basement of the house, 43-year-old Stacy Stanley, aka Stacy Hicks. She was also naked and had several bags of garbage piled on top of her. Stacy Stanley was reported missing on September 8th and was also last seen in Ashland, Ohio. Stacy's vehicle was located on September 9th, and investigators believed that it appeared as though somebody other than Stacy had been driving it. It turns out that it was more than likely Shawn Grate that had been operating Stacy's vehicle. When the bodies were found inside of Shawn's home, it was apparent that they had both been tied up for multiple days before both being murdered via strangulation. After investigators confronted Shawn with the discovery of the bodies, Shawn then led the investigators to the body of a third victim. This time, it was an ex-girlfriend of Shawn's, Candace Cunningham. While in police custody, Shawn confessed to another murder. This time, it was a woman whose body had already been discovered. Her name was Rebecca Lacey. Police had already deemed her death as an overdose, but Shawn claims that when Rebecca stole $4 from him, he murdered her via strangulation. Shawn then also went on to confess to a fifth murder, expressing that this woman was his first kill. Her body was initially discovered in 2007. However, investigators were unable to identify her until Shawn Grate specified her to be missing person Dana Lowry, and then DNA confirmed this in 2019. While awaiting his trial, it seemed that Shawn Grate was willing to completely cooperate with police officers, even going as far as...
This is quite sickening. It's very sickening and disturbing. You could look in his eyes and you can see that he has no soul. So this is a prime example of a serial killer, right? He is full-blown sociopath. He has no feelings. He doesn't feel nothing. Taking someone's life is no different or equivalent to just breathing or eating on a regular day basis. They have no conscience. That's how serial killers move. That's how you can tell the difference between someone being a sociopath or a serial killer or a psychopathy, right? Because when you're psychopathy, when you're on that spectrum, you don't have your emotions are mundane. They don't fluctuate, right? You look at everything the same. A wedding is the same equivalent as a funeral. Whereas a sociopaths, their emotions is very volatile. It goes up, it goes down. They have uppers and downers. You would pretty much think that they were on drugs. They're the ones who you like, oh my God, you're insane. 1 minute you're cool and you're happy, and the next minute you do a 360 and you're mad at the world and you have to take it for the world. So that's the difference. What he's been showing and doing, he's clearly a psychopath. He's clearly a serial killer. My whole thing is I'm believing that the reason why now he's more comfortable of telling because he got caught, he's trying to make a name for himself. He's trying to have the legacy of all the other serial killers that we have, the Son of Sam, Jeffrey Dahmer, and I forgot who was the one who was the charismatic one that we usually talk about, Ted Bundy. Yeah, that's what I think he's trying to be put in the Hall of Fame of serial killers as these other individuals have done. But let's continue to learn a little bit more about Shawn Grate.
As demonstrating exactly how he murdered his victims.
And she kind of just like whacked my hands and like started flipping out and stuff like that to the point where I had to just like grab her and just lean forward and just press, you know what I mean? Okay. That explains that was a little bit.
However, just 16 days after his initial arrest, on September 29th, 2016, Shawn Grate submitted a plea of not guilty to 23 charges against him.
I'm sorry. Court will accept the plea of not guilty to all charges in the complaint. Mr. Grate, I do in fact have the waiver of speedy trial, waiver and waiver of preliminary hearing forms that appear to bear your signature. Did you sign those forms this morning? Yes, Your Honor. And did you do so after Attorney Whitney thoroughly reviewed your rights pertaining to preliminary hearing and speedy trial? Yes, sir. And do you understand the consequences of waiving those rights? Yes.
His attorneys would then go on to specify that the not guilty plea was by reason of insanity.
They were already dead, Shawn Grate wrote to me in one of 2 letters dated September 28th. Written in careful cursive on ruled loose-leaf paper, apologizing for sloppiness because he had to write with a small pencil. In his first letter, Grate tells me about facing himself in the mirror and promises to share exactly why he did it. And that's exactly what he did in the second letter, which I found folded neatly inside the original, signed copy of his indictment, the same document that lists his aggravated murder charges in the death of Stacey Stanley and Elizabeth Griffith. The charges came after a third woman who escaped led police to their bodies in this Ashland home last month. They were already dead, just their bodies were flopping wherever they can flop, but their minds were dead, Grate wrote, blaming government assistance for taking the minds of his victims. And so he finished the job with what he calls a horrible act of violent behavior. And he says this story began 5 years ago when he first reached out for government assistance. But he said he couldn't get enough, writing that he received $197 a month on a food card, though many bodies receive $700, he wrote. Grate uses the words bodies, victims, and people interchangeably, and the letter is scattered with Bible verses about.
So obviously we can see that this man had a hatred for women, and he had a hatred for, he thought that women was getting a better deal than he was. He thought that women who was getting any public assistance or they was getting any help, they didn't deserve it. They was just utilizing something that they didn't want to work for, and he couldn't get it. And he felt that he was just taking out the trash. That's his mindset. So that's why I said, you know, he didn't have no heart. He didn't care one bit. And she's right. Him using bodies, persons, and this, using them interchangeably, they're all the same thing. They're all the same thing. He literally said that these women were already dead, even though they was flopping around, meaning that he said that they were walking, they were just walking bodies. They weren't living people. They weren't living. They were dead inside. It was dead in their mind. The way how they carry themselves, the way how they present themselves in this world, they were already dead. He just felt that he took the body out of its misery, or he let the spirit go. That's what he's stating with these letters. Very, very, very cruel, very evil. That's like pure evil, wicked type of man right there.
Although Shawn submitted a plea of not guilty to the courts, he continued to admit to the murders via telephone interviews and letters with media sources. This is when Shawn's attorneys worked with the prosecution to obtain a gag order to prevent Shawn from speaking any further about his case publicly. The trial of Shawn Grate began on April 9, 2018, and Shawn Grate changed his plea to guilty for 15 of the 23 charges against him.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the evidence will show beyond a reasonable doubt that this defendant was found asleep and naked in bed in a house that a terrified naked woman escaped from after being repeatedly assaulted and raped by this defendant. 2 decomposing bodies were found inside, having been kidnapped and murdered by this defendant. This defendant subsequently, over the course of multiple interviews with law enforcement, confessed to every element of every crime with which he is charged. This is not a whodunit case. This is a he did it case. The discovery of this defendant's crimes began Tuesday, September 13th, 2016. At 6:48 a.m., a woman called 911 from 363 Covert Court in the city of Ashland.
Jane Doe, from the initial phone call of this video, testified in court.
Where did he hit you?
My head, my face.
One time? More than one time?
Several times, as long as I kept fighting.
And did you continue to fight?
Until he started choking me.
How was he choking?
With both hands around my neck.
Was he facing you?
Uh-huh.
And what did you do?
I stopped.
Why?
Because I knew I couldn't get out of it.
On May 6, 2018, Shawn Grate was found guilty to all of the charges against him. After the verdict was read, Shawn Grate made a speech to the victims' families.
Today's a good day, mainly for all of you guys and myself. Hope we could just move on from all of this. I don't know exactly, I can't say I'm normal, but, I know right from wrong. And mainly, just if I cause any hate, bitterness, and then all of any of you, you can work on that. I ask you maybe forgive me. Find in your heart someday, I know not today, but someday. And just move on from this life. And may justice be served today. That's the most important. Elizabeth, Stacy, and Lori, thank you for all your time. And this mess, I'm sorry for all human beings to have to listen, hear this, okay? I'm sorry. I can't change nothing. Believe me, I would. Not for me, but for you guys. Thank you.
Just under a month later, on June 1st, 2018, Shawn Grate was sentenced to death. The date of his execution was set for September 13th, 2018, exactly 2 years from the date of the rescue of Jane Doe.
News 5 begins now with breaking news. That thunderous applause in the courtroom as a judge sentenced Shawn Grate to death by lethal injection. Thanks for joining us. I'm Terrence Lee. It is the same sentence a jury recommended for the man convicted of kidnapping, raping, and killing Stacey Stanley Hicks and Liz Griffith. Grate is scheduled to be executed in mid-September on the 2-year anniversary of his capture. Last month, the jury convicted him and recommended he receive the death penalty in connection with the deaths of the 2 women back in 2016.
Shawn Grate's legal team immediately filed an appeal, and the date of Shawn's execution was postponed. Over the year following his conviction, Shawn Grate admitted to 3 of the remaining 8 charges that he initially pled not guilty for. He was sentenced to life for these charges. As of today, Shawn Grate is currently residing in the Chillicothe Correctional Institution, and his execution date is currently set for March 19th, 2025.
You can see when Grate sees that there's a story that bodies were found, the bodies of multiple women he allegedly killed. He puts down the remote and watches attentively.
I have nothing else to say to you, and I just hope that you get what you deserve in there, you know? And, you know, that's what's really sad is you hurt my family, but you also hurt your own home, man. You got a son and everything else. That should have at least crossed your mind. Made a miserable mistake that you're going to live with the rest of your life, and so is your son and everybody else because of the mistakes you made. You know, and for Lori to get up there and talk to you, that was good on her. I'm glad she faced you because you're evil, man. And I felt bad for her. You know, you took advantage of that woman and my mother like they were nothing. That doesn't make you a tough guy. It just makes you evil.
Yeah, this was definitely frightening and disturbing. So I guess we have something to look forward to because he's supposed to be well, I guess executed. He's supposed to be executed this year. Next year, 2025. So in March. So I guess we will hear news about that. But yeah, this is horrible. It seemed like he had a natural hatred for women, a vendetta. He felt that women didn't deserve it, especially specific type of women. They didn't deserve assistance or help. And he kind of blamed them for it. And he thought that he was being a vigilante. He thought that he was doing the world a justice by getting rid of all these useless bodies that's walking around, flapping around, right? Because that's how he spoke about these women that he did this to. I can't wait until justice is actually really served. And he thought that he was going to get a kick out of it. He thought that he was going to be remembered like Ted Bundy, the son of Sam. He thought that he was going to be on those type of serial killers level, and he purely enjoyed it. He enjoyed the intention and everything. And I'm just going to tell you right now, sir, no, we will not remember you. We will not remember you. Even though we have this documentation, even though we went over a review who you are, you will not be remembered. All right. So, tomorrow's your mama's birthday. Well, tell her happy birthday for me, young Riaz. I hope she has a wonderful birthday. Her being a New Year's baby and everything like that. Shout out to her. Shout out to her. All right. So I have one last video for you guys, and then I'm going to let y'all good folks go and start bringing in the New Year's Eve, right? And just make sure everyone who's still rocking out with me, please hit the like button. All right, share, comment, subscribe, tell a friend. You know, if they would like these type of cases and stuff like that. And I really do appreciate when you do hit the like button because it helps me. It helps the channel so I can put out this good work, this good stuff for you, and we can go back and forth and do commentary on the cases that we're seeing. So last but not least, the next one it's somewhat of a I wouldn't say funny situation because no murder or anybody losing their life is a funny situation. Never I would ever consider any forms of anyone losing their life as a funny situation. But there is some things that these criminals have. What we realize, a lot of these criminals are dumb. A lot of these criminals leave a lot of trails and tracks. And then the ones who do think that they're smarter than the detectives, they're smarter than the average bear. They really think they're going to get away with it. So now we're going to look at a case where it's going to show you everything that you don't do. Everything that you don't do so you could get away with a crime, okay? So let's look into this. Hey, Ariel, how you doing? How you doing? Thank you for coming, sis. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. All right. Oh, you going to sleep after? Ciao. But it's good to see you, sis, and Happy New Year to you, too. All right. Let's go on. Let me fix it. Okay, there we go.
2012, in the city of Carrollton, Texas, a dramatic 911 call was received by the Carroll County Sheriff's Department at approximately 8:30 p.m.
Carrollton 911, what's the address of the emergency?
I've been shot, please.
What's the address, ma'am?
1525. Way.
What's the phone number you're calling from in case I lose you?
972 939 9.
Tell me exactly what happened.
I'm being carried in my garage. I was getting out of my car. And while the other person shot me. Please help me.
Yes, ma'am, I've already got help started your way. Don't hang up, and I'm going to get some questions answered from you, okay? How many people was it?
It just wasn't aware.
Did you see him?
Yeah.
Was he white, black, Hispanic?
He was white at least. Dark hair.
How old?
I don't know, maybe mid to late 20s, 30s.
And what color shirt was he wearing?
I don't know. He was wearing a black cap. Oh, help me.
Yes, ma'am, they're already on the way. Just you stay on the phone with me, okay?
I'm trying.
Yeah, I know. I can't imagine how bad it hurts. I just want you to stay on the phone. Do you know, did he pull up in a car?
Did he what?
Did he pull up in a car, or did he run away?
I don't know. I never saw him. I guess he ran away. I don't know.
Okay. Are you by yourself?
Yeah.
Did your garage face the front or the back?
It was in the back.
Is that where you are right now?
I made it to the front. I'm going to lock my front door.
Okay.
I'm sitting on the chair by the front door. Oh, my God. Help me, please.
Yes, ma'am, they're already on the way. What's your name?
Debbie Howard.
Okay. All right, Miss Howard, like I said, they're already on the way.
Help me, Jesus. Help me, Lord Jesus.
Yes, ma'am.
Help me.
Yes, ma'am.
Help me.
Is that them?
Help me. I don't know what to...
Okay, I'm going to let you go, Miss Howard, okay?
I'm sorry, but I don't have the energy. Help me. Okay. Oh, help me. Help me, Jesus.
The voice you just listened to, crying for help, belongs to a 51-year-old woman by the name of Nancy Howard. Nancy had just arrived home after attending a baptism at the church that she and her very religious family frequented. 1 hour before this 911 call was received, at 7:30 p.m., Nancy stopped on her way home at a Taco Bueno, and then continued back to her place and pulled into the driveway. She opened the garage door, parked her vehicle inside, and before she knew it, a man had his arm around her neck with a gun pointed towards her head. He demanded that she give him her purse. Nancy fought with this man and managed to pull herself away and look directly into his eyes. She also looked directly into the handgun that was pointed at her face. Her adrenaline was through the roof and slightly impairing her ability to think clearly. So instead of handing this gunman her purse, she reached out and stuck her bag of Taco Bueno into the middle of his chest. When the gunman pushed the food away, he got angrier and started swearing. Nancy then handed him her purse. He took the purse, pointed the gun down towards Nancy's face, who was now kneeling on the floor, and fired a single gunshot directly into her left eye. He then ran off. Nancy collapsed and fell unconscious. Several moments went by before she started to regain consciousness and comprehend everything that just happened. Laying in a pool of her own blood, Nancy used whatever strength she had available to crawl to her vehicle. She opened the door and reached up towards the emergency response call.
I want to tell y'all something. Do y'all understand how resilient and how strong this woman is? Do y'all really understand that? I want y'all to understand that this woman got shot in her face, gained consciousness, and was alert enough in real pains, insufferable pain, was alert enough to hit the alarm button that automatically gets to the 911 and literally carry herself to her porch while she has we don't even know if the bullet went straight through, but the bullet's inside of her and she's leaking. Do you understand how strong this woman is? Do you understand how resilient this woman is? Like, literally, her God, whoever she prays to, was with her. That is, most people, they're literally unconscious, even though if they might not be necessarily dead immediately once they get shot in their eye, but they're usually unconscious. You would just have to go and check and see if they're breathing, right? That usually will be the only response you would get, whether if they're still breathing. But for her to actually be functioning, woo, man, God, won't he do it?
Button. Since the vehicle was not turned on, this button was not working. So Nancy forced herself up onto her feet and walked inside the house. She managed to disarm the home alarm system and then went directly into the laundry room, which was only a few steps away from the garage door. She looked up at herself in the mirror. She described what she saw as horrifying, and the reality set in that she might die. She walked into her kitchen and called 911. The police and medical responders quickly arrived on the scene and tended to Nancy's injuries. When officers asked her who did this, Nancy replied, "I don't know who they were. It was a man that looked about 20 years old that had a strong chin, facial hair, and black-rimmed glasses. He was also wearing a hat." She was then transported to the hospital where further medical treatment could be provided. Hospital staff stated that it was a miracle that Nancy was alive, as the bullet had actually traveled through her right temple and partially through her right eye, down her throat, and then lodged into one of her lungs, somehow missing any other vital organs. Nancy's husband of 29 years, named Frank, was out of state at the time of the attack, traveling for work. Officers struggled to contact him, so instead they contacted one of Nancy and Frank's daughters, who then got a hold of Frank. Frank apparently had a very emotional breakdown over the phone and then immediately rushed to the airport to fly home. He arrived the next morning, where he met up with his 2 daughters and 1 son. They all went to the hospital together. Frank stumbled through the hospital as he wept profusely, clearly in a state of total shock and concern. He then arrived at Nancy's room and stayed by her side. Once the hospital staff informed him that Nancy's outlook was very promising, he managed to regain his composure and speak to the police.
Can you update me on her condition, what the doctors have said?
Yes. Actually, it sounds bad when you say somebody shot me, but actually very, very good. No brain damage, none of that. She'll lose her left eye, but from there it will be cosmetic stuff.
What I know about her, it doesn't seem like she would have many problems with anybody. Has she?
Oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Nancy can be real giving and open. Somebody came to the door and they just needed money to get a hotel room because their car broke down.
Mm-hmm.
And
they came to your house?
To the house, yeah, at the front door. And she told them, she's just so on good heart. I mean, she just said that she would try to help them find a hotel room. But, I mean, if there's, you put up a reward or do anything like that,
again,
whatever. But anyway,
once we get to the point where we've exhausted all of our investigative leads, that's another step we would take.
I'm just saying, just whatever we need to do.
Because obviously money can prompt people to give information. Would you have a problem if we ran an analysis on your cell phone? No.
After providing investigators with his cell phone, Frank then went back to caring for Nancy and being by her side. A few days had gone by before officers began to focus on Frank's possible involvement. This is because Frank's cell phone indicated that he was having a long-term affair with another woman named Susan. Frank hadn't been away for business. He was actually staying with Susan. Since investigators were suspicious of Frank, they asked the hospital to no longer allow him to visit Nancy. So Frank was cornered into telling both Nancy and his daughters about the affair that he was having. He stated that this was the only reason that the police were suspicious of him. His daughters then said, "Dad, you need to get a lawyer." Frank then lawyered up and the focus on him slightly subsided. Investigators then decided to look into other possibilities and re-examine any evidence that they could get their hands on. In doing so, they made several new discoveries. One discovery they made was Nancy's purse dumped in a nearby dumpster. They located this purse by tracking down her cell phone, which was still inside. What was strange about this discovery is that they found Nancy's driver's license had been removed from her wallet, leading investigators to believe that the perpetrator was confirming her identification before dumping these items. The next discovery was made while reviewing the security footage from the church that Nancy had attended hours before the shooting. In this footage, they could see Nancy pulling into the church parking lot and then parking her vehicle before heading inside. They could also see that Nancy was being followed. This silver vehicle pulls in behind Nancy's car. When Nancy enters the church, the vehicle drives off. The vehicle then returns, parks, and a man can be seen entering the church. Using the washroom and then returning to the car. When Nancy exits the church and drives out of the parking lot, this vehicle proceeds to follow her. Unfortunately, this footage on its own provided little information to the investigators, as the resolution was too low to make out any distinct facial features or license plate numbers. While reviewing this
yeah, I think there's a real important reason why his daughter said you need to go ahead and get a lawyer, right? Because obviously his wife is a religious woman. She did not play about her faith. God bless this woman, right? This man decided he was supposed to be on a business trip, but he's over there knocking some boots with his lover that he probably had for numerous a time. But now he's going to be a primary suspect because after watching that she was being followed and stuff like that, and he flies over immediate. Forget you, my side chick. My wife got shot. I'm going to go and be at her thing. That's all performative. And that's how the police and the detectives is all looking at it right now, right? That now you hire someone to unalive your wife, and then you're going to come over there as the caring husband, and oh my God, I can't believe someone who did this. But just really, if you really think about it too, right? They live in a home, right? I don't think their home is right on right on the street where a heavy traffic comes by, right? The person specifically waited until she parked her car into the garage and had access in that way. All of that detailed information had to be told. And then what the detective said when they found her purse, that her ID was taken out, and it was being examined of, hey, do I got the right person? Is this the right person, or is this the right house that I went to? So they examined the ID, and I'm not sure if they said that any money was taken or anything of that sort. But if you had the whole purse, then why not confiscate the ID and stuff like that? Usually your IDs are in your wallets, right? So you take the whole purse, you want to throw out the purse, you take the wallet got the cash, the credit cards, and all the stuff like that. But let's go. Oh Lord, Empress said it's about to get interesting. Here we go.
Footage. Another officer pointed out that she had a strange encounter one evening in the same neighborhood as Frank and Nancy's home, just a few weeks before the shooting. This officer had pulled over a vehicle that was registered to an address multiple hours away in East Texas. She witnessed this vehicle driving aimlessly through the area for several hours. This encounter was recorded on her cruiser's dash cam.
White Honda Accord. So how long have you been in Carrollton tonight?
Been trying to find my uncle's house for 2, 3, 4 hours.
Okay. The reason I asked is I saw you guys earlier, and I see you again, and
we were going in circles and circles and circles.
Can you step out of the car just for a second? I want to talk to you a little bit.
The vehicle had 2 occupants. The man driving said his name was Dustin Hirams. When asked why Dustin was in the area, he replied that he was looking for his uncle's house. He then changed his story and said that he was looking for his stepdad's house. And then finally, he said that he was actually looking for a house that belonged to a family friend named Mr. John.
Tell me who you were visiting here, because now I'm confused. You said uncle, and then you just said it was
John. Okay.
Okay.
We always called him John.
Okay.
That was it.
So John's a friend of the family.
Yes, basically. We're not trying to cause no problems.
The 2 were allowed to drive off that evening. However, investigators felt that these 2 men could quite possibly be involved in the shooting. So they brought pictures of these men to Nancy and asked her if she could ID them. Nancy said that it was neither of these men. About a week after the shooting, investigators received a phone call from the county jail. Apparently, there was an inmate by the name of Billy Earl Johnson that claimed that he had details regarding the shooting and that he wanted to speak with the officers working the case. So they did just that. An interview was arranged with Billy Earl Johnson.
You know, I mean, I got a reputation of being a badass. I mean, I ain't, everybody's claimed me to be tough and bad. I don't claim to be tough and bad. I'm mean. I'm gonna hurt you. If you jump on me, I'm gonna hurt you. 49 years old. I done been to the pen total 15 years. I got grandkids that I want to spend the rest of my life with. I want to be free, and I want out this weekend. I got the big ace in the hole, and I got the ball in my court on this. If y'all want this murder, this attempted murder solved, y'all need to work with me because I ain't playing. Y'all want it, I'll give it to you in a fucking golden basket. I'm not giving up nothing until I got something solid on my end. I'll die with it.
I don't think this woman deserved what happened.
No, she sure didn't. But if
and she deserves a little bit of justice.
Yep, and she'll get it. But I want my back scratched too.
Maybe not from you.
I want my back scratched too.
Billy continued to withhold information about the shooting until investigators offered him a deal. The full details of said deal have not yet been made public. However, one of the stipulations required Billy to provide information that could confirm the legitimacy of his claims. So Billy began to describe Nancy's vehicle.
She ain't had it long. It's brand new.
Okay.
It's dark blue. It's a 4-door. It's got like a hatchback.
Once the officers felt that the info that Billy was providing was credible, they reached an agreement. Billy then started to unravel the mystery of this attempted murder.
Now that's very alarming because her husband hasn't even been arrested yet or charged for attempted murder. Neither of those guys, she didn't recognize them, even though they was wandering around back and forth. Where the cop noticed that she's seen them numerous times for hours going around in circles in the same spot, right? So how do an inmate who's been in prison for 15 years, right, and he's supposed to serve 45 years, how do he have intel exactly what happened to this church-going woman and her descriptive of her vehicle? How do we have that? How does that happen? This woman haven't been to jail. This woman don't look like she been to jail. She, she don't look like no thug, no criminal or nothing. She looks like just a church-going wife, a regular church-going wife. So we're about to find out, how did he know this information?
Apparently, Mr. John had heard stories about Billy, and on one random afternoon, Billy received a call.
I was laying on the couch and the phone rang. How he got my information from them, I don't know. He just said, you don't know me, told me his name. Said, I don't know you, but I was caught word that you might be the one to do a job for me. He wanted it done in an accident so it wouldn't come on him. Like a carjacking, purse snatching. There was 2 of them that done it. One driving, pick them up, and one that pulled the trigger. Now, which one drove, which one pulled the trigger, I don't know, but I know both of them. That number right there?
1764.
That's John's contact number, if he still got the phone.
That's how you call him? How many conversations have you had with John regarding this being done?
Numbers.
More than 10?
Yeah.
More than 20?
50, 60.
As it turns out, Billy was considered a ringleader of an East Texas gang known as the Hee Haw Gang. And he proclaimed that this man, named Mr. John, was actually the one that arranged to have Nancy shot. Billy also mentioned that he knew other people that could corroborate these claims. One of these people was the man that we saw during the traffic stop named Dustin Hirams. Dustin was actually Billy's stepson. Investigators then contacted Dustin and brought him in for an interview.
You're a good kid. You got yourself messed up in a little thing, but you're a good kid.
See that you're not wrong. The Christian woman, dude. That's it. Who shared with you that she's a Christian woman? John did.
Although Dustin was admittedly high on methamphetamine during this interview, he still made it clear that this Mr. John character was a high roller, and that he was throwing money at everybody in an attempt to persuade somebody to kill Nancy. Dustin also made it very clear that there was over a dozen people that were well aware of this murder-for-hire scheme. One of these people was a man by the name of Charlie Louderman, who Billy had hired to be his bodyguard. At this point, Charlie was already behind bars, so investigators arranged an interview.
So have you heard about the shooting in Carrollton?
Yeah, I heard.
Everybody else heard about it, and you know who was involved in it?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Billy Earl Johnson and Mr. John.
Mr. John. So you know Mr. John?
Yeah. Billy Earl's out there. He is one mad son of a bitch. This man, he tried to get me to kill that woman.
Did he really? But he could.
You want the truth?
Yeah, I want the truth.
You got that recorded on? Yeah.
I've got to have the truth.
Yeah, you goddamn right. That son of a bitch tried to get me to kill that woman.
Charlie corroborated Dustin's claims that Mr. John was the money man. Apparently, Billy Earl Johnson was the man initially hired to shoot Nancy. When Billy decided that he wasn't going to do the job, he tried to pawn it off onto several other people while taking a portion of the pay. When this did not pan out, Billy decided to run a long-time con on Mr. John, squeezing every dollar he could out of him. He would spin stories saying that the day he went to do it, the cops were nearby, or that there were too many people. Basically, he would say anything that he could to push it another day. He would then ask for more money, which Mr. John would provide. He bought Billy guns, tractors, cars, basically anything that Billy wanted. Mr. John would originally provide this money in cash.
So this is getting really crazy and really wicked. So, because apparently it seemed like this poor Christian woman's husband been trying to have his wife whacked off for a very, very long time. And he have gotten in touch with gangs in prison to help, facilitate this. And they saw him as a lick, and they kept on running it up on him, running the tab up on him until it finally happened. Probably one of the reasons why this head ringleader of the gang, he wanted to use it for his benefit now, since, the woman has already gotten shot, whether or not she was not supposed to live, but she did live, right? That's unfortunate, but they have completed the job. So now, since the detectives and everybody's on it now, he's like, hey, listen, this is my opportunity to actually get out by being the one that will prescribe all the details about who, what Mr. John wanted to do and how long this operation was supposed to occur. So let's hear more. Everyone got paid. I see this. Everyone got paid. And you would just think this is just some poor little regular Christian woman, and she didn't even know. She didn't even know that so many people was plotting on her death. That's very scary. Let's go on.
But when Billy kept requesting more, Mr. John became lazy and started to send wire transfers. Charlie also told investigators that he knew somebody with a picture of Mr. John, so as investigators waited for the picture, they decided to trace these wire transfers. In doing so, they found that Mr. John had sent multiple members of the Hee Haw gang a combined total of $850,000. And when they finally received the picture, it all became clear. Mr. John was actually John Franklin Howard, aka Frank, Nancy's husband of 29 years. Frank was immediately arrested and charged with solicitation to commit capital murder. He was held on a $1 million bond. Frank was so highly regarded by the community that several friends and family members pooled their money together and managed to post his bond within days of his arrest. While Frank was awaiting his trial, officers moved forward with the two names that Billy Earl Johnson provided as the triggerman and getaway driver. One man was actually Billy's nephew, named Michael Speck. The other was a man named Michael Lawrence. Since Billy stated that he was unable to specify which of these two men did what, there was a lingering question as to which of these men would be facing an attempted murder charge. Investigators then decided to comb through Billy's jailhouse phone calls. While doing so, they found a familiar voice.
Hey. Hello? Hey. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. What's happening?
Hey, I can get out of here. It's going to take about a month to get out of here, but I need some money.
Well, I mean, what happened to Michael? I gave him a bunch of money.
Well, how much you give him?
And I don't even know anymore. It's been so long.
You give him 20?
At least.
See, I just wrote Stacy a letter and told her that he, in other words, he probably me.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is that, so I mean, it's that keeps happening. So I got nothing left.
So where'd that money
obviously,
go?
yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Where did all that money go? Because that's where he's got it all. I told him, I said, this is the last I got. And he said he'd go take care of everything. And I have heard absolutely nothing from him since. So that's my problem. I got nothing left.
Yeah, nothing?
No, I gave him everything.
There ain't nothing you can do.
I gave him everything.
Although this recording seems to heavily indicate that the triggerman was likely Michael Speck, police had also received a phone call from a woman named Misty Ford. Misty stated that she was Michael Lawrence's fiancée and that he had confessed to her that he shot Nancy that day and presumed that she was dead, and that Michael Speck operated as the getaway driver. Although this statement was quite damning, officers still weren't confident who had done what, as some of this information was conflicting. So, both Michael Lawrence and Michael Speck were charged with aggravated robbery and conspiracy to commit the murder of Nancy Howard. Throughout this entire investigation, Nancy Howard would claim that she just did not believe that Frank could have been involved. The two were happily married for 29 years and they had 3 kids together. As a family, they were very religious and went to church every Sunday. They were all very involved in the community, and Frank just did not display any characteristics of the type of person that could have done this. However, Nancy's opinion began to change as everybody awaited Frank's trial. She stated that in 2009 to 2012, when Frank began a new job working as the CFO for a man that provided resources to the military in Iraq, that he became a different person. She said this version of Frank was much more confident, yet much more mysterious. Anyways, Frank's trial took place in August of 2014, and Frank's infidelity was highlighted as the likely motive for him to hatch this murder-for-hire.
So now that makes more sense as into why he has all that money. He became a contractor. He became a contractor when it has to deal with weapons and stuff for the government. So yeah, if you haven't known, those contractors make a lot of money. Some of them stay overseas for a certain time because of the amount of money they make. So the money part makes sense. And he does have intent too, right? The motive behind it is that he wanted to live out his best life with his woman that he's been cheating on his wife with for a whole entire time. But he wanted to keep his good standing with the community as his faithful husband who is religious and who runs a religious household. He wanted to keep that too. So it does now, I see motive and intent as into why he would try to unalive his wife. And he didn't mind paying all that money to do it, especially being a contractor and having to worry about your safety 24/7. You do get the basic level of combatant skills and how to do surveillance, how to do espionage. You do learn that while you're over there doing those things because it's a dangerous job being a contractor in that way. But let's go on.
Scheme.
North Texas man's affair was front and center in court as prosecutors tried to convince a jury that he tried to have his wife killed. John Franklin Howard is on trial for attempted capital murder in connection to the 2012 shooting of his wife, Nancy.
Well, yeah, court just officially went into recess, ending week 1 of testimony here, and it ended with the wife that investigators believe Howard tried to get rid of, and the other woman, they say might have been partially the reason for it. John Frank Howard's double life was front and center in the closed-to-video Denton courtroom today, but the pictures inside show the emotional ride he took as his wife and mistress both told their stories. After detailing the night she was shot in the face, Nancy Howard talked about her difficult rehab, but the even more difficult moment when Howard told her by phone in Parkland Hospital that he was having an affair with Suzanne Leontiff. Prosecutors even showed a photo taken from Howard's desk in his Grapevine office of him with Leontiff and her kids. Now, she told the jury she was in love with Howard and living with him in a condo in California, but says she was getting fed up with a divorce from his wife being promised but never actually happening. But the defense says the affair is not the question in this case. They're not even questioning that it happened. Attorney Ricky Parrott says his client isn't on trial for adultery. This is about the murder for hire charge. That will likely become focus next week when the people Howard's accused of hiring are scheduled to testify.
During the trial, the prosecution presented several pieces of evidence which seemed to outline Frank's involvement. The evidence included a breakdown of phone history, which included calls between Frank and Michael Speck, some of which took place throughout the day of the shooting. Pictures of spreadsheets that tracked every transfer that Frank made to the Hee Haw gang, as well as a detailed breakdown of Frank's 3-year affair with his mistress Susan, which included a second home and a condo, as well as documentation that showed that Frank had given Susan $500,000 in cash and spent about $1.9 million on the lifestyle for the two. They would also present a text message that Susan had sent Frank in the weeks before the shooting, which they believed may have been the catalyst for this shooting to take place. That text message read, "I'm so sick of being alone. You need to file this by Friday or move on. I have waited long enough." Frank replied to this message in a love letter, stating that he is working on it and that he knows what he needs to do. The defense attorneys claimed that Frank had actually been blackmailed and that the credibility of the prosecution's witnesses left something to be desired.
I do not believe as reasonable people you can convict someone on the testimony of the kind of people they brought in here that their house of cards has to be.
Now, I knew that the defense was going to try to say that because of the victims and not the victims, but the witnesses and the people who helped him and assist this operation. They are not credible individuals, right? They're not the type of witnesses or people that you want to stand, to take the stand and say, yeah, this is what happened, because, they have committed crimes that they're literally in jail serving time for. However, it's not going to work for the defense attorney because of the simple fact that if these people are already in crimes that they have committed, they don't hold no loyalty to this man. This man is not a part of their team. He's not a part of their gang or nothing. He's literally the lick. He provided all the money that they need and that they needed inside the prison and outside of the prison to keep their organization going. They don't owe him no loyalty. They have no reason to hurt Nancy at all. And quite frankly, it seemed like one of the guys who possibly was the one who shot her, he was feeling a little remorse after shooting her because she didn't do anything wrong. And she was an innocent. He felt a little griped about that, right? But they're going to go with the simple fact that none of these guys are credible and that they're saying all of this just to get out of jail. Well, guess what? Newsflash, defense attorney. Yeah, of course they want to get out of jail, but that does not mean that anything that they say is not truthful. They have given you details. You have gotten the phone calls. You have the phone call list. You have the transaction from the money, everything that is leading up, that they have been in contact with this man for a very, very long time. So I don't understand how they think they're going to really swing this, and they definitely can't put this guy, their client, on the stand. They can't put him on the stand at all. Absolutely not. They're not even going to. So we'll see what they decide to do afterwards. But yeah, that was the only bet that the defense attorney can possibly do, is just, say that these men will say and do anything just to get out of prison. And they're going to say that they blackmailed him. So they're going to say that his client was in fear of his life by dealing with these guys, and they just kept on extorting money from him. Let's go on.
Built them, and it starts with Billy Johnson, and it ends with Billy Johnson. Because I do not believe that's the kind of evidence in this country that we want to use to convict someone of a crime to deprive them of their liberty if they're convicted.
They would also claim that the idea that Frank would want his wife of 29 years murdered as a way out of the marriage was preposterous, as Frank had already gone through a divorce in the years before he and Nancy got together.
Where in the world is any evidence been told you that divorce is unacceptable to Mr. Howard? He's already had a divorce. He's been married once. Look at the evidence and ask yourself if that's...
I'm going to let it play, but I want to just say this. It doesn't matter if he was divorced before. Most people who are divorced don't want to get divorced again. Okay, not only because it's emotional stress and mental stress, but it is also a financial stress, right? You have to pay money for attorney to make sure that you get things properly done or settled between you. Sometimes some have to pay alimony, others have, some have to pay child support. So a lot of people don't want to go through that again. It's usually a lot of people say having getting a divorce is a horrible experience. It's not fun. Even though it's freeing to be separated from the person, it's not a fun experience to go through. So I mean, I think that the defense attorney did a bad job by trying to state in that, well, he was divorced before. He don't have no problem getting divorced. Probably he does, because like the wife stated, that he started acting different between the course of 4 years, I think 2009 to 2011, I think. He started acting different once he got that contractor job. He started making more money. Obviously, she'd been married to him for 29 years, so he's making more money than half the years that they were actually married. And look how much he invested into the side chick. He had a whole double life. Everything was invested into $1.9 million, where they had a house and a condo where he would go travel out there pretending that he was doing a contract job while his wife is at home just going to church or doing whatever else she possibly does. I don't know if she works. Again, there's too much motive and intent for him to want to do that, and for them to try to say that these guys just want to get out of jail. Yeah, like newsflash, everybody know that these guys want to get out of jail. But it all leads to who really wanted to unalive her, and it makes perfect sense that it's her husband. But we'll see what else they try to pull out their sleeves. They're going to try to pull out any way possible to not make their client go on the stand, because if the client go on the stand, they are going to drag him to shreds when it comes down to the cross-examination, and they're going to harp on the simple fact that you was living a double life with your side woman, and all probably in a whole different state or across the country. They're going to harp on that. Let's go.
That's what that means.
Ashley, Jay, and Brianna each testified for their father, telling the jury what a kind and compassionate man they'd always known him to be. They weren't in the courtroom for the presentation of most of the evidence, but when they were, they sat behind Frank. During the closing arguments, the prosecutor would call Frank sick, after presenting to the courts an email that Frank sent Nancy on the day of the shooting.
I know you have a busy day today, because he knows her schedule. He's provided it to the two Michaels. So I will try to call you sometime today. I love you and can't wait to get home to you. That's sick. That is sick. He wanted to get home to her casket. That's what he wanted to come home to.
The trial lasted nearly 3 weeks, but the jury only needed 2 hours to reach a decision.
Has the jury reached a verdict in this case?
Yes, we have, Your Honor.
And is that a unanimous verdict of each and every one of the 12 jurors in this case?
Yes, it is.
Please hand that to the bailiff. We, the jury, find the defendant, John Howard, guilty of the offense of attempted capital murder as alleged in the indictment.
John Franklin Howard was found guilty of solicitation to commit capital murder. During Frank's sentencing, Richard Raley took the stand. Richard was Frank's ex-boss, the man that hired Frank to work as a CFO during the years 2009 to 2012, when Nancy said that Frank had changed. Richard told the jury that over the 3-year period that they worked together, Frank had systematically embezzled over $30 million from him. This was the money that Frank used to pay the Hee Haw gang to commit these crimes. Prosecutors concluded that in addition to his extramarital affairs and a building disdain for his wife of nearly 30 years, Frank must have known that a divorce would have exposed his financial misdeeds. John Franklin Howard was then sentenced to life in prison.
The Denton County man convicted of trying to hire someone to kill his wife was sentenced to life behind bars. The jury's decision for John Franklin Howard came earlier today. Yesterday, the same jury found him guilty in the murder for hire case. NBC5's Brian Scott is live at the courthouse with the details. Brian?
Brian, after nearly 3 weeks of arguments in this one, John Frank Howard's fate is sealed. he will likely never walk free again. Today, a Denton County jury sentencing him to the maximum, life in prison, after convicting him this week of attempted capital murder. The motive, they said, was an affair he admitted to having with a woman in California. An emotional Nancy Howard told John Howard after sentencing that she had loved him dearly and he tried to take everything from her, destroying their family in the process. The defense says they will appeal, but they were prepared for the worst.
He's exactly where he needs to be. We're very thrilled with the verdict we did receive, especially it was very comforting to Nancy Howard.
Now, the Howard's adult daughter, Ashley, was also in the courtroom for sentencing today. Obviously an emotional day for her, and she declined to comment. However, all three of the Howard's kids have stood behind their father during the trial, testifying they didn't believe he did it.
Following Frank's sentencing, Ashley, Jay, and Brianna were visibly very angry. All three of them left the courtroom without saying bye to their mother. During the trials of the two Michaels who were accused of being the triggerman and getaway driver, Michael Speck actually turned on the other Michael, Michael Lawrence, stating that he was in fact the shooter. Michael Lawrence was then sentenced to 60 years behind bars. He quickly appealed his conviction, and in 2017 it was overturned on the grounds that evidence related to the murder-for-hire scheme was misleading. He was retried and found not guilty. However, the prosecutor decided to change his charges and have him face trial for taking part in the conspiracy to commit the murder of Nancy Howard. He went on to make a plea agreement and was sentenced to 10 years in prison, while Michael Speck was sentenced to 12 years after testifying against him. Billy Earl Johnson has never been charged for his role in this murder-for-hire plot.
That was a whirlwind of emotion, guys. A whirlwind with emotions. Like, to the point where this woman was living with a man who wanted to literally end her life because he wanted to live with his mistress. He's sitting up there embezzling millions of dollars, and he knew that that was going to come out in a divorce settlement, right? And to go that far to seek out criminals, prisoners who are a criminal gang that starts inside and outside to hire to take your wife's life. So you wouldn't have to divorce her just to make the side woman happy is crazy. I think one of the biggest things that disturbed me about it is how the children walked away from their mother and stood by their father, in this situation. I think that was quite disturbing for me because it was your mother that got hurt. It was your mother who had to fight for her life to call 911. It was your mother who lost her eye. It was your mother who got cheated on by your father, living a whole double life across states lines. And you walked away from your mom like you was angry at your mother. For what? What was you angry at her for? Were you angry at her because she did not lose her life and your father didn't get away with it? What was you angry with your mother for? That was very telling, and that was very sad. And I don't know if he was the type of father that we used to shower a lot of gifts on his children, didn't matter how old they was, as like hush money or anything like that. But I'll say that was the biggest disturbing part for me. The biggest disturbing part is like, you're supposed to love both parents, and nobody's saying that you're not supposed to love your father, but you turned your back on your mom, and she's literally the victim throughout the whole entire situation. It was her life that was on the line. She was the one being cheated on. The money that's supposed to be both of their money, he's embezzling it. Something that she could have been held accountable for if that would have brung up in divorce, her being linked to him, have it under his name, she would have been a part of that situation. That was the most disturbing thing for me. Very messed up, very messed up. But I would say the silver lining throughout this whole thing was she still survived. Her God was strong. It wasn't her time, and she was still able to be with us. And she didn't go, she didn't go quietly, she fought to the bitter end. God was with her, and she was able to keep her life. And I know that this is going to be a lifelong thing that she's going to have to work, figure out and stuff. A lot of trauma, a lot of therapy. There's going to be things that she's going to have to deal with the rest of her life, being injured the way that she was injured, and also trying to build back the family pieces together with her children, and it's a long process. So I wish her the best. I wish her children the best, and that they probably finally seen the light. And the guy is where he's supposed to be at. And like I said, whether those guys are criminals or not, they got their time served. But at the end of the day, at least they helped this woman to get some justice, even though it was a bartering type of situation. It was a trade-off type of situation. At least she was able to get something, right? But I want to say thank you, everyone. That's all I have for you tonight and for today. We was on for 4 hours. I think we did a good job. I want to just say, please hit the like button and please comment and subscribe. Like I said, tell a friend about the channel if you're interested in these cases. I can pick up more cases tomorrow for the new year. But what I wanted to say is Happy New Year, everyone. I want y'all to be safe. I hope your family does well. I hope you have your New Year's resolutions all set. Anything that worked for you for this year, don't change it. If it's not broke, don't fix it, right? That's the saying, right? But I hope that we all come into the new year grateful with that we still have breath in our ears, we have loved ones, we still have a home, we're still able to take care of ourselves, feed our families. Like, these are all things that we should be very grateful for, right? Because we do know that some people do not have these things. So I'm just happy that I was able to make it to another year, even with all my trials and tribulations and stuff. And I have a lot of New Year's resolutions. I have a lot of things I have learned and grow in certain things that I need to sustain for myself. But I want to appreciate everyone for rocking out with me. Please make sure you hit that like button. And again, Happy New Year's to everyone. Happy New Year's. I hope you have a great time. I'm about to go ahead now and get ready to cut a rug, right? Because your girl got some dates and things to do. But anyway, Happy New Year's, everyone. I will talk to you soon. See you in the next year. Bye-bye.